It seems on the verge of breaking, and I must report this immediately. It appears the ray has also been damaged. It laughs triumphantly, pulling out a black, brick-like object from its bulging backpack. After pressing a few buttons, it holds it next to its pointed ear. Hello, is this the relay station? The sealed door is indeed flickering. The legends left by our ancestors are true. I wouldn't have to stay in this damned place anymore. Hey, you're talking nonsense again. How many false reports have you made today? You've already wasted 5 fully tamed mosquitoes. Damn it. I'm not making this up this time. I recorded it. I'll send it to you right now. I'm about to achieve great things. Don't mess this up for me. I want to be the first to step on the surface and try those delicate, slippery beings of the blue planet. Haha. The one called Highdower put down the bricks, then took a round object off his shoulder, pulled out a line from it, and connected it to the black brick, rapidly pressing it again. Hurry up, everyone. This opportunity must not be missed. At that moment, in the passage at the bottom of the Swallow Cave, a cold mechanical voice began to narrate. A long time ago, about 10,000 years before the Blue Star Era law, my master, Atlantis, ruled this land. They loved peace and art, enjoyed science, travel, and adventure. Most importantly, they were kind. The voice paused for a moment, as if organizing its words. Forget it. That's all in the past. Let us get to the point. In the year 5238 of the Tis calendar, which was 10,050 years ago, adventurous citizens arrived at the Swallow Cave. They discovered some creatures in the cave that resembled lizards that had not completed their evolution, yet they were already intelligent. They could use tools and gathered in groups. When the first citizen reached the bottom of the Swallow Cave, they regarded him as a deity. They worshipped him, offering what they considered the best food and precious items, seeking his help. The citizen did not refuse. He used his knowledge to help the lizard people who were suffering from famine. By the way, my master called them the lizard people. He also filmed a documentary and brought this news back to the civilized society. At this point, Dongfang interjected, since they are so primitive, what is the significance of establishing a base? Please don't rush. I am getting to that. Although most citizens of our nation are peace-loving, there are always some who are eager for power and want to enjoy privileges. He was Felipe, the second brother of the king of Atlantis. He particularly hated that his father passed the throne to my master, the great scientist and king, Tis. Originally, after the throne was passed to Tis, he gave up the struggle, as he had no military power, until someone brought back images of the lizard people, those physically strong, numerous creatures. This gave Felipe hope. He secretly took all the technical materials from the Technology Institute, along with his subordinates and a group of vassals who supported him, and secretly infiltrated the bottom of the Swallow Cave. He became the king of the lizard people. He selected the strongest lizard people to train as warriors, and had his subordinates replicate the technologies brought from the Academy of Sciences. In just 10 years, he established a massive army of lizard people, numbering over 1 million. On the spring plowing day of April in the year 5288 of the Tis calendar, Felipe, believing he was fully prepared, launched a war. That night, countless lizard people suddenly emerged from underground, wearing highly protective armor and wielding laser weapons and cold weapons, storming into cities across the continent, burning, killing, and plundering, causing countless citizens to lose their lives. The army of Atlantis faced a large-scale defeat for the first time. Humanity is crying. The earth is trembling, and the black smoke rising from the burning cities lingers in the sky for 3 days after the war ends. In one night, Atlantis lost 1/3 of its territory and cities. However, my master, the great scientist, naturally would not allow this situation to persist. He immediately dispatched a brave suicide squad, which used various methods to gather intelligence on the weaknesses of the lizard army. They fear high-energy beams. Just one could take their lives. Knowing this weakness, King Tis led the researchers to quickly develop thermal energy lasers, which were used as a secret weapon. In a large-scale direct confrontation, the thermal energy lasers proved effective, sending the lizard people fleeing in panic. We called it the War of Revenge. With only 1/3 of our territory remaining, we launched a full counterattack, forcing the lizard people to retreat until they were driven underground. This battle, lasting 30 years, ultimately ended in our victory. We also discovered the source of the lizard people, the bottom of various sinkholes on the blue planet, which led to the underground world. The East was astonished by such a convoluted history. Since we had already won, why not completely eliminate them? Nova asked, believing that enemies must be entirely eradicated to prevent future threats. We thought about it, but it was not feasible. My great master dispatched an army several times larger than that of the lizard people to enter the underground, seeking to finish the job in one go. However, the unfamiliar environment and harsh climate became obstacles to our success, and our proactive assault failed. The kingdom could no longer send more troops to eliminate those scum. Upon learning of the harsh conditions underground, King Tis realized that if those beasts were allowed to recuperate, they would soon launch another invasion. Thus, He reluctantly built these bases in the sinkholes, securely sealing those beasts underground to prevent them from reaching the surface. However, your arrival has awakened my defense system. The energy sealing the passage is critically low, nearing the warning threshold. My purpose in communicating with you is twofold. First, to persuade you to cease further attacks, and second, to request your assistance in replenishing some fuel. I wonder if I could have your permission. Of course, I can open the bases for you to visit. I believe you must be a noble in the Atlantis Kingdom, right? Surely you would agree? The East chuckled and was about to speak. Suddenly, the force field was breached, and the energy gate was under attack. Danger. Chapter 176, Breaking Time. The scene shifts back to the relay station 2 kilometers away, where the operator had just hung up the phone with Haido. They received the video of Haido tossing the mosquito and watched it 3 times, confirming it was not a hoax. Muttering to themselves, this guy really didn't lie to me. He's really going to make a contribution. Their hands trembled with excitement. The ultimate dream of the entire clan. However, the actions were anything but slow. They quickly pressed the display screen in front of them, sending the video to the superior relay station with a message attached. Video verified. Urgent. Special urgent. The information was even marked in black to indicate its importance. Underground. They could not launch satellites, so the transmission of information had to go through several relay stations, which required some time. Even so, within just 5 minutes, the video was transmitted to an exceptionally luxurious underground palace. The walls of the palace were adorned with crystal chandeliers, their light diffusing to illuminate every detail of the grand hall. At the focal point of the light stood a human dressed in extravagant attire, holding a device resembling a tablet. He was carefully watching the short video, which lasted only a few dozen seconds. Gradually, an exaggerated smile appeared on his face. He looked up and said to the imposing guards standing silently behind him, "Notify the first group to set off immediately and attack the portal with full force." Yes. The guard donned a mask resembling a lizard's face and pressed a button on his belt before heading out. As he walked, his body began to grow larger, eventually taking on the appearance of a lizard person. Watching the guard leave, the central figure couldn't help but burst into laughter, the sound echoing ominously in the hall. After so many years of dreams, it is finally about to be realized in my hands. No more facing these brutish, mindless creatures. With the command of the supreme ruler, the lizard people's actions were swift. They deployed large flying vehicles and reached the massive light portal within minutes. Artillery ready. Missiles prepared. Requesting launch. Full fire coverage. Blow it open. The leading lizard waved his hand, and countless shells flew toward the portal. Due to the lizard people's inferior intelligence, even though all technical data had been provided, they could only replicate a portion of the energy weapons. With researchers aging and passing away, many crucial foundational knowledge gaps emerged. The lizard people could only use some of the scientific technology to develop chemical weapons like cannons. This was also the reason why they had struggled to breach the light portal for so long. Today, the portal had changed, and the long-prepared plans finally had a chance to be put into action. With the addition of thermal weapon attacks, the energy consumption of the portal increased significantly, with large black spots appearing continuously. The thermal lasers fired intermittently. For the overwhelming number of warheads, it was merely a drop in the bucket. Seeing the state of the portal, excitement spread across the faces of all the lizard people. Hope was within reach. Suddenly, the portal made a popping sound, like an eggshell, and vanished. Cheers erupted among the lizard people. "Vanguard, advance," commanded the leading lizard. The already prepared vanguard troops rushed towards the passageway. The sporadic bursts of orange thermal energy lasers can no longer form an effective defense. "This is bad. The sealed door has been breached, and I need your help. Honorable Noble, please assist me. This is also your obligation." From the platform of the cave, a robot with a skeleton exterior emerged, holding a display screen that was showing footage of the lizard men rushing into the passage. "Nova, this can't be fabricated, can it?" The eastern side would never easily believe it. After all, one must always be on guard. "It's hard to determine now. We need to conduct a direct analysis. Please transmit the video signal directly to me. My master needs to see it immediately. Please hurry. The second line of defense is about to be breached." The skeleton robot approached the Panther mech without any defense, tossing out a data cable. Soon, all the data from the original video was transmitted to Nova. "Captain, it's real, and it was just recorded. It seems we need to help it. However, looking at the weapons used by these lizard men, they are only comparable to the current technological capabilities of the Blue Planet. We can easily fend off these not fully evolved beings. In that case, let's discuss the terms. After losing so many robots, you should at least make it up to me quickly. My master agrees to help you, but what can you offer in return?" The Panther mech spoke again, appearing calm. "As the initiative was in the hands of the eastern side, I understand this. I can offer all my technological reserves, as long as I have them. As long as you need." After the light gate was breached, the passage was extremely wide, and all the lizard men surged in like a swarm of locusts. completely filling the entire passage. Forward, forward. Before long, they reached a metal door. The door was equipped with numerous thermal energy laser emitters. But the number was less than half of those outside the light gate. Moreover, their energy was still insufficient, and after taking down over 80 lizard men, they fell silent. The lizard men brought in thermal cutting equipment and quickly cut the large door into pieces. Continue moving forward. Soon they encountered the third metal door. There was nothing set up at the entrance, and the lizard men came to a halt. The unknown is the most terrifying. The setups they had seen before didn't prepare them for a door with no defenses, and they froze in place, hesitant to enter. The leading lizard man furrowed its brow. What should be done? Should they risk the lives of the lizard men to scout ahead? Would the high priest blame them for this? Forget it, during this cautious period. It's better to ask for instructions. The leading lizard man waved its hand, and a lizard man carrying a box stepped forward, unloading the box from its back. It pulled out an antenna and quickly pressed a button on it, handing a microphone to the nearby Legion commander. Connect me to the high priest. I am Kodo, the commander of the First Army. At this time, the Eastern faction had just dispatched a Panther-type mech into the underground space of the platform. Unaware of the technological reserves possessed by the newly emerged artificial intelligence from Atlantis, the Eastern faction needed to verify the situation first. Having the initiative made them quite bold. It was also the first time the Eastern faction encountered a civilization other than humans on Blue Star. In the hall, there were neatly arranged rows of round computers. It turned out that the so-called self-developed computers from the Western faction were actually remnants of Atlantis civilization. Those partially evolved brutes had simply plagiarized their technology. Chapter 177. Each with their own thoughts. The technology here was highly similar to what the Western faction claimed to have on Blue Star, and even more advanced. For instance, the energy for the entire base was provided by a cold nuclear fusion reactor located underground in the hall. Additionally, there were the large LCD screens used in the hall. Furthermore, the first batch of exploration robots that entered the underground discovered a metallic circle with glass pieces, which turned out to be a flashlight. The Eastern faction was utterly shocked. These foreign individuals had been vehemently claiming that traditional medicine from the Eastern country was useless, denying the theory of the 5 elements and the concept of meridians, essentially dismissing all Eastern theories. It appeared that in the beginning, they understood nothing. They simply learned from the remnants they found, and only now, with the continuous advancement of science and technology, did they realize that the theories of meridians and acupuncture in the Eastern country concealed great secrets. Consequently, nations like England and France, under the banner of certain countries, were constantly researching meridians, with reports even claiming that they had discovered meridians for the first time. These individuals, who are not of our kind, must have different intentions. The so-called Atlantis and the scum below cannot be spared. They must all be dealt with thoroughly, ensuring their complete disappearance from Blue Star. With a plan in mind, the Eastern faction finally spoke up. Nova, say that we agree and to package all the technical data, then let him open the passage for us to guard. By the way, do you have all the maps of the underground exits? I want to know where else on Blue Star, besides the Swallow Cave. There are underground passages leading to the surface. Hello, Guardian of Atlantis. We have agreed to assist you, but the light elements you need for cold nuclear fusion, alright. The helium, hydrogen, and their isotopes, we currently do not have in stock. We will first use aircraft and robots to help you with defense. And once the required fuel is refined, we will deliver it promptly. Don't worry, it won't take long. Nova's voice came from a bioengineering robot, and on the hall's display screen, a beautiful female figure appeared. She showed a thoughtful expression, seemingly weighing the conditions presented. However, her thoughts were not focused solely on those matters. Since this nobleman is helping me guard the passage, I can rest assured. His subordinates seem even more powerful, and the beam weapons they use are more advanced. Those creatures will definitely be unable to resist. Once my energy levels are sufficient, I will activate the ultimate defense program of the base, eliminating this noble and his subordinates, as well as all the creatures underground. Only then can I ensure that the secrets within the base will never be leaked. By the way, to deal with them, I'll provide some information on thermonuclear fusion. If my father could see my transformation, he would surely be pleased. The woman on the screen lifted her head, a faint smile appearing on her face. Esteemed nobleman, that would be wonderful. With your power, defending against those creatures will naturally be a piece of cake. However, please expedite the fuel matter. I feel uneasy troubling you for so long. After all, this is my mission. Don't worry, I don't like war. If it weren't for your request, I wouldn't even get involved. By the way, what is your name? My name is Athena. I will open the passage. Please have your subordinates enter. The information is stored in the large server in the center. The nobleman chuckled. Haha, Athena. So that's why the outsiders regard Athena as the goddess of wisdom. It makes sense. Those barbarians from thousands of years ago would certainly have seen the so-called intelligent AI as an omnipotent deity. At that moment, the walls of the hall slowly parted, and the hall began to rotate. Once the walls were fully opened, the rotation stopped, revealing an oval passage approximately 80 meters wide and 50 meters high. About 5 meters into the passage, there was a metal wall. Esteemed nobleman, the passage is at the entrance. I will open the door for your subordinates now. The second-generation mech and the bionic robots stopped in front of the wall, and the AI that called itself Athena quickly began to explain. As soon as she finished speaking, the metal wall slowly rose, revealing a well-lit passage. Meanwhile, underground, the commander of the First Legion, Kodo, after consulting with the High Priest, put down the microphone and waved his hand vigorously, his eyes showing excitement. After kicking a lizard soldier who had just strapped on a black box, he shouted loudly, "Relay the order. The whole army is to attack. Whoever reaches the surface world first will be rewarded by the king. Female lizard, money houses, and slippery blue-skinned beings. Whatever you want, you shall have. Even if you want to become the Legion commander." Kodo's command was immediately transmitted to all the lizard people through a black communication device resembling a brick. The battlefield erupted with frenzied roars, as the saying goes, under a heavy reward. There will be brave men. Heidu was the first to charge out. He was the first lizard to discover the anomaly of the light gate. Now that he had regained his identity as the captain of the vanguard, he was even more eager to be the first to reach the surface and obtain endless wealth, reaching the pinnacle of his life. It must be said that today is its lucky day. The first one to rush to the metal door actually encountered no attacks at all. Its mouth was nearly grinning from ear to ear. Haha, I must be the first to reach the ground. It roared, pulling out the laser cutter it had been carrying. A device replicated by scientists from a certain individual. It was designed specifically to cut through massive metal doors thicker than 2 meters. Today, it finally came in handy. Having just used it once, it replaced the cutter's battery with a high-capacity one. Then it opened the cover at the back of the cutter and pressed the red start button. A white laser shot out, cutting through the sturdy metal door as easily as a knife through butter. "Come over. Let's push it open together." It turned around proudly and shouted at the waiting lizard warriors behind. They all put on gloves and, standing behind the metal block still dripping with molten steel, pushed with all their might. The metal block began to move little by little. The lizards shouted a unified battle cry, "Blue beings, we are coming." On the other side of the passage, a swarm of flying craft hovered in midair, with second-generation mimic mechs crouching below. Behind the mechs were rows of fortifications, with 2,000 robots lying in wait. Countless energy gun barrels were aimed at the passage. They quietly watched the slowly moving metal block, various energy weapons beginning to charge, their muzzles glowing with blue light. "Have you obtained all the Nova data?" The individual raised a teacup to take a sip, hiding its sharp gaze behind the rising steam, a playful smile curling at the corners of its mouth. Chapter 178. Let's take it easy. "Captain, all technical data has been copied, including the part Athena wanted to hide." Haha, it thought of quite a bit. Some of the most core data was encrypted, but for me, that's just too easy. The bionic robot that stayed in the hall to receive data stood up and approached the large screen. "Athena, my superior has obtained the desired data. Our deal is complete. The master's subordinates will remain here until all the lizards are repelled and sufficient fuel is provided to you. They will withdraw on their own. Then, farewell. Thank you for your generosity, noble lord. May I know your name or title?" "No need. I prefer that others do not know my preferences." After the bionic robot finished speaking, it turned and walked into the group of robots hiding behind the fortifications, no longer engaging in any conversation. "Nova, what other countries in the world have lizard exports?" The individual set down the teacup, sitting up straight and withdrawing its playful expression. "Look, Nova has transmitted a map into your view," it said. "This is an extremely ancient map of the blue planet. In the east, a vast landmass is found in the middle of the ocean. Nova, is this the legendary continent of Atlantis?" "Yes, there are exits in the ground, with openings in various continents, including one in the eastern country, totaling 59 exits worldwide, of which 6 are within the eastern country, 33 in Atlantis, which is now underwater, and the remaining 20 are distributed among several nations, 6 in the flag-bearing country, 4 in a large nation, and 8 in another country, with the last 2 in the northern continent, including the Swallow Cave. Oh, this location is quite strategic." The eastern figure smiled again. "Are there records of the defenses for each passage?" "Of course, very detailed." Nova nodded affirmatively. "All right, send out the second-generation mechs to open all the passages in the Americas. I want these outsiders to be busy for a while and not keep their eyes on the eastern country all day." A mischievous glint appeared in the eastern figure's eyes. "As you wish. Brothers, let's push harder. We're almost there." Heido shouted, looking at the metal block that was just a little away from being pushed aside, wiping the sweat that had formed on his forehead. The lizard people prefer cold and damp environments, so their clothing is specially made. At the collar, there is actually a water pouch that sprays water through tiny pores all over their bodies when it detects dehydration. Of course, This could not have been developed by the lizard people themselves. It was created by researchers brought by Felipe to conquer the surface. And these lizard people have only mechanically applied it until now. Brothers, put in more effort. Heido placed his hand on the metal block again and began to exert force. Finally, light emerged from the gap in the metal block. Several lizard people roared together, pushing the metal block aside. Then Heido saw a glowing orb, a beautiful blue one. After that, he knew nothing more. The world above ground is truly beautiful even if it's just a glowing orb. This was his last thought. The lizard warrior behind him witnessed all of this. As a small glowing orb turned the captain to ashes. Moreover, through the gap, it saw countless explosive gun barrels and numerous red electronic eyes. Fear overcame desire, and it suddenly stepped back, knocking down the unprepared lizard behind it. Damn it, are you blind? Why retreat instead of advancing? You go ahead. The lizard behind Heido widened its eyes and shouted at the lizard at the opening. Coward, I'll go first. It cursed while grabbing its rifle. Leaping towards the gap. Another fool, trying to earn merit. Sure enough, the moment it exited the passage, it was reduced to a cloud of ashes. Fall back. Get away from this gap. The normally silent vice captain shouted loudly. The vanguard retreated collectively. What is going on? Seeing the vanguard continuously retreating, Commander Kido noticed something was wrong. Report immediately. A lizard man ran up to Kodo, shouting loudly. Behind the metal door were countless enemies, armed with energy weapons. The vanguard captain, Heido, has been killed. By the way, he was the first to notice the changes in the light gate and actively requested to join the vanguard. What? Kodo's hands trembled involuntarily. Heido was the son of his elder brother. Due to his aggressive nature, he often got into fights with lizard men, and recently, he had fought the son of the 2nd Legion commander over a dispute. To protect him, Kodo placed him at the Sentinel Station, a desolate place, but unexpectedly, he discovered the changes in the light gate and earned merit. While he was busy mobilizing the army, he didn't pay attention to him. Who would have thought he would exchange his military achievements for a vanguard captaincy? But now he was gone. How was he going to explain this to his sister-in-law? To his deceased elder brother? He stood quietly for a moment, recalling the high priest's orders. Even if all 20,000 lizard men of the 1st Legion were to die, they must break through the surface's blockade. If they couldn't break through, then they would come to see him with their heads. Yes, he couldn't even protect himself. So why worry about so much? After all, Heido was already dead. The lives of others had nothing to do with him. Order. All troops advance. Rewards for those who move forward. 5 gold coins for each person. Those who retreat will be killed without question. Make a larger opening in the metal door for the charge. The elite team would serve as the overseers, and any retreaters would be executed. Kodo's eyes flashed with ferocity as he rapidly issued a series of commands. Yes, the messenger replied loudly before running off to convey the orders. At this moment, the eastern side had just finished arranging everything and turned his attention to the passage. Nova, what's the situation? Captain, the lizard men are too weak. They are only slightly stronger than the nations on Blue Planet. If we don't hold back at all, they won't be able to break through the defenses set up by the bionic robots and mechas. Haha, then what are we waiting for? Let us hold back a little. Your will is my direction. Understood, Captain. On the other side of the metal door, more lizard soldiers arrived. They wielded laser cutters and began to cut through the metal door with all their might. Once the cutting was finished, the lizard men cleared a path, and a gigantic lizard entered. A lizard man sat on its head, making strange sounds. The lizard seemed to understand him, walking calmly to the metal door and using its head to push against the already cut metal pieces. With a gentle force, it rolled the metal pieces out. Then it stepped back and repeated the process, pushing all the metal pieces aside. A wide passage appeared before the lizard men. The aircraft and mechas on the opposite side remained still, seemingly out of energy. Hurry, drive them back. We can't let those beasts cross the blockade. Athena appeared on the screen in the hall, her expression fierce as she roared continuously. Chapter 179. Take care, I will retreat first. Okay, no problem. The last bionic robot that entered turned back and spoke to the large screen. Then it immediately turned around, raised the energy gun in its hand, and pressed the trigger, sending a light ball shooting out. Unfortunately, it missed. After hitting the metal blocks pushed out by the giant lizards, it burned a large pit into them. After the first shot was fired, all the robots began shooting. However, their aim today was terrible, and the energy balls mostly hit the metal blocks. Simon, the deputy leader of the Vanguard team, took over as the leader temporarily after Heido was turned to ash. Following the captain's orders, it waited behind the giant lizards. Once the metal blocks in front were pushed aside, it shouted and charged out, dodging countless blue light balls. Simon closed its eyes as an unknown energy ball flew rapidly toward it. Forget it, at least it had given its all for the country. It hoped its child and wife would have a better life. With a thud, it collided with something. Opening its eyes, it realized it was those metal blocks that had been pushed out. It climbed down and checked itself all over, surprisingly unharmed. Haha, it laughed out loud. To hell with it, I'm not charging anymore. Surviving after the ordeal, it made a final decision. Then, it timidly turned back to see how its comrades were doing. To its disbelief, only 5 out of the 100-member Vanguard team were down on the ground, while the other lizard warriors, like itself, were huddled behind cover. Although some had their tails exposed and were hit, they had managed to survive. Could it be that these people didn't know how to use weapons at all? Was Hadu's being hit just an accident? Simon's mind began to race. Since there was a chance, who wouldn't want to achieve merit? Brothers. I discovered their shooting skills are poor. Maybe they are just civilians. They probably can't even hold a gun. Look, out of 100 brothers, only a few are missing. The lizard warrior lying beside it kept nodding. Indeed, even if it wasn't he great at counting. It could tell that there were only 7 piles of black ash in the passage behind the metal blocks, meaning aside from Hadu and one other, only 5 had been hit. Then let's charge. Tell the brothers to go together. As long as we get past the first line of defense and into the crowd. Those soft-skinned Blue Planet people can't possibly be our match. Simon activated the communicator and started rallying. Sure enough, the brothers all agreed with its opinion. I'll count to 3, and then we charge. Anyone who doesn't T-charge will be reported to the command team when we get back. After counting to 3, 95 strong lizard warriors charged out together. This time, Simon stayed at the back. It carefully observed the light ball shot from the opposite side. As expected, this time the vanguard surged forward, and the civilians across were surely intimidated by their momentum. A vast number of light balls only hit 23 people. Charge! Simon stopped observing, leaped over the motionless metal creatures on the ground, and jumped into the crowd of bionic robots behind the cover. With one grab, it knocked down the dazed robot in front of it. It felt a bit lost. Why were the legendary beings from the Blue Planet, known for their delicate skin and tender flesh, so tough? After receiving a blow from itself, they fell to the ground without any visible wounds. This was inconsistent with the records left by its ancestors. At that moment, a robot nearby raised its energy weapon and aimed at it, clearly about to fire. Not daring to be distracted any longer, it swung its right claw, knocking the weapon from the robot's hand, and then delivered a firm strike to the robot's head. The robot let out a mechanical cry devoid of emotions before collapsing to the ground, motionless. It bent down to pick up the weapon, but despite using all its strength, it couldn't accomplish that. Damn! It kicked the robot hard and charged at the other robots again. Nova, isn't this a bit too unrealistic? The Eastern observer awkwardly touched their chin, a hint of embarrassment on their face. Nova's acting was rather poor, wasn't it? How could that be? Just look at the robot's fall, the expression of fear, and the shock in its eyes. If this could be made into a movie, it would definitely win some little golden statue award. Nova exaggeratedly laughed and showed Eastern a series of dramatic images. All right, if you like it, that's good. Let's continue watching the movie. It's a sci-fi blockbuster. Kadwa also received news of the breakthrough, along with footage sent back by Simon. They had successfully breached the defense and engaged in close combat with the Blue Beings. Kadwa even keenly spotted the hall behind the Blue Beings. Command the troops to charge. Yes, the Central Army, which had been slowly advancing in the corridor, immediately picked up the pace and rushed towards the metallic door upon receiving the order. Soon, they saw Simon maneuvering through the crowd, shouting and waving its fork to knock down robots one by one. However, this was reaching its limit. After all, the number of robots was 20 times that of the Vanguard. Even with Nova's defenses, only a few of the over 90 lizard warriors remained. This is unacceptable. The newly arrived lizard warriors had red eyes, seeing their compatriots being taken down. How dare these food items resist? Without the metallic door and thermal lasers, they were merely a group of two-legged food. They didn't wait for orders and charged forward immediately. As the saying goes, when there are tens of thousands of people, it is boundless. Like a brown tide, the lizard warriors rushed into the cover, and the robots could no longer hold them back, retreating in disarray. Occasionally, a shot would be fired, igniting the fastest lizard warriors in flames. I'm sorry, Athena. The enemy is too strong, and our strength is too weak. We have no choice but to retreat for now. Take care. I will come back to help you once I gather a large army. After saying this, all the bionic robots, including the second-generation mechs and swarm flyers, immediately changed direction and charged towards the Swallow Cave. You liar. Athena's fierce face appeared on the big screen, constantly screaming as if she wanted to burst out of the screen and personally tear the bionic robot to pieces. I curse you. You won't have a good end. You fraud among nobles. I know you're the inside man for those beasts. I will activate the self-destruct program. Bury you and those beasts here. Athena shouted, ready to initiate the self-destruct program. What's going on? Why can't the self-destruct program be activated? Just as she was shouting, the lizard people rushed out, seeing both Athena on the screen and the equipment placed in the hall. Smash the instruments. Burn this place. The Blue Planet belongs to us. Simon howled. Finally on the verge of victory, fulfilling the dreams of ancestors for thousands of years, and the achievement was within reach. It's all mine, all mine. Nova, your retreat acting is out of line, retreating so neatly and calmly. What are you acting for? Captain, it has to be this way. Otherwise, how would Athena know we were deceiving her? She must live in pain. She has no good intentions. I've already obtained all her data. And she thought she could catch us all. Oh, is that so? Well, you retreated quite well. Have the other passages been opened? Chapter 180. Great change currently. 6 passages have been opened, including the Swallow Cave, with the remaining 5 all located within the borders of the Flag Country. Nova grinned and sent out a video. It showed a sinkhole within the borders of the Flag Country. An image appeared in the eyes of the East. The same passage, but without the consumption of bionic robots. Started with an exceptionally bright light gate. However, just a few seconds later, the light gate began to flicker. Large black spots soon appeared, similar to those at the bottom of the Swallow Cave. Even without the lizard people's attack, it started flickering on its own. The lizard people assigned to observation duties, like Haido, also noticed the anomaly. The highest leader in the underground hall received the news once again. Orders were transmitted rapidly to the 3rd to 7th Lizard Legions, which had the experience of the 1st Legion. They brought various equipment with specific targets and quickly formed ranks upon reaching the light gate. Crossing the light gate and cutting through the metal door, their casualties were even fewer than last time. They entered the underground hall with single-digit casualties. Captain, this is footage from 20 minutes ago. They have now entered the bustling city area. The scene is quite lively. Nova waved his hand, and the image changed again. This time, the main focus was on the cities of the Flag Country, where lizard people excitedly opened their mouths wide, pouncing on the terrified foreigners. Nova, are there any international students here? We can't let our outstanding students be harmed. Don't worry, the students are all in class, and no students have been found in the monitoring. I have database comparisons, and I previously issued warnings to schools with students from our country. That sounds perfect. The Eastern figure nodded and continued to watch the live footage transmitted by Nova. At that moment, the main character on screen was a chubby white man who was desperately running forward. A reptilian creature was leisurely following behind. Its long legs allowed it to keep up effortlessly, even as the man ran fast. The creature wore a mocking expression as it watched the chubby man dive into a car. Haha, this distance is just right. Just enough for me to finish my meal. I wonder if this chubby one will be tender and juicy. The reptilian creature stomped hard on the ground, letting out a roar as it lunged at the side of the car. With one grab, it tore the car's side door off, and with another, it ripped off the man's arm and began to chew on it. Nova quickly cut the feed, declaring, "This footage is not suitable for children. Don't traumatize the flowers of our nation." At that moment, the news media across the Blue Star erupted. The most agitated were the Flag Nation and its allies. The spokesperson stated, with a heavy heart, "We must share some unfortunate news. Early this morning, 10 major cities in the Flag Nation faced a crisis, as countless bizarre, lizard-like creatures burst from the ground. In just 2 hours, tens of thousands of citizens have been harmed. We will deploy the Flag Nation's most elite forces to combat these beasts and protect our taxpayers' safety." The leader of the allied nation agreed, emphasizing the need to eliminate these creatures to protect the citizens of the Great Flag Nation. The Hua Nation expressed sympathy for the Flag Nation's plight, noting that it was surprising for a nation that prides itself on being the best in Blue Star to be unable to ensure the safety of its people. They promised that if the Flag Nation required assistance, their brave people's army could be dispatched to eliminate these creatures and remain stationed in the Flag Nation to fully protect the lives and property of ordinary citizens, without charging any fees. Nova, let the Star Fortress stay on patrol along the Hua Nation's border. Any reptilian attempting to enter must be eliminated, but those that do not infringe upon Hua territory need not be dealt with. Understood. Nova nodded heavily and vanished from sight. He sat up from his recliner, stretched, and stepped out of his bedroom. "Dear grandson, are you done resting? Grandma is making you some noodles." Although Grandma's appearance had changed, her love for her grandson remained unchanged. I'm really a bit hungry," Eastern thought, and he devoured 2 large bowls of noodles once they were ready. After finishing, he looked up to find 3 pairs of eyes staring at him. He hurriedly grabbed a tissue to wipe his mouth and smiled sheepishly. "Is my mouth clean now?" The 3 elders nodded in unison, their faces full of smiles. "Good son, you've really grown up. You quietly built such a big company, and from now on, your parents won't restrict you anymore. Go do whatever you want." Eastern was astonished. "Mom, what's going on?" While Dongfang was in the bedroom, the 3 elders opened their phones and looked through all the news online about the company he founded. They finally realized just how impressive Dongfang's company was. Suddenly, they felt that their grandson and son were no longer the little children they used to be. The company had become the highest tech, most diversified, and fastest expanding private high-tech enterprise in the region and even beyond. Amidst their astonishment, they felt more pride and satisfaction. This is what led to the earlier scene. Now, we interrupt for an urgent news update. Just as they were happily chatting, the festive program was replaced by serious news. Viewers in front of their televisions, compatriots from various regions, and expatriates around the globe, the spokesperson of a certain country has just released significant news. Mysterious creatures have suddenly appeared in various parts of the country. They are large, extremely fast, and armed. They are extremely ferocious and will ruthlessly attack humans on sight. Therefore, we have temporarily suspended travel programs to that country, as well as international flights. We also urge compatriots who have already arrived in these regions to contact the local consulates in a timely manner and return home when appropriate. However, residents in our homeland should not panic. We have dispatched survey teams, and the sinkholes across the country remain unchanged and safe. Nevertheless, to ensure safety, we advise all extreme sports enthusiasts to stay away from the sinkholes and cherish their lives. After the 2-minute emergency news broadcast concluded, there was a flurry of activity in Dongfang's home. Fanger, what is going on? What are those things? They look quite frightening. Our country is so much better. Just look at that place. It's either fighting or facing disasters all the time. I'll just stay here. It's comfortable, said Grandma, frowning with a look of disgust. Grandma, we don't know either. The video was all pixelated. It's hard to see clearly. What is pixelated? Why is it pixelated? The news didn't say he did anything wrong. Chapter 181. Opportunity. It was the 16th day of the first lunar month. 67 days since the appearance of the reptilian beings. Various news reports were rampant. Even though there was an effort to suppress information, people across the globe were aware of the true situation. The country had been devastated. In the third world, there was a sense of jubilation while the military of that country was in a state of distress. They were truly at a loss regarding the reptilians, feeling powerless. They wanted to use large-scale destructive weapons on their own territory, but conventional weapons alone were ineffective against the reptilians. In just a few days, several third-tier cities had fallen, and light industries, especially agriculture, were paralyzed. The reptilians had found it easier to invade farms, enjoying the livestock such as cows, pigs, and sheep. This time, that country was no longer the world's police. All entity sanction lists have been completely lifted, and they need supplies, large quantities of supplies, to meet the needs of the people. In stark contrast is a certain powerful nation with a robust heavy and light industrial system, where orders come pouring in like snowflakes, and the prices are double the usual. As long as there is money to be made, the diligent people of this country are willing to forego holidays and immediately ramp up production. The roar of factory machinery echoes across the land. However, among these companies, one stands out. That is the Dihuan Company, which has been on holiday since the 28th day of the last lunar month, returning to work only on the 16th day of the first lunar month. Even when a request came from a certain entity for a large purchase of super graphene batteries at double the price, Dihuan Company showed no signs of resuming operations. They simply posted a notice on their official website stating that they would fully resume work on the 16th day of the first lunar month and welcomed everyone to come and purchase. Dihuan Company has become immensely popular, known nationwide for its rebellious choice to forego piles of cash in favor of an extended holiday until the 15th day of the first lunar month. Incredible. This is the only word that comes to mind for the admiration felt by netizens across the country. This was also unexpected for the initiators, who merely wanted everyone to enjoy a lovely holiday. They did not anticipate such a huge response online, which has led to a surge in the recruitment of aerospace talent. Countless outstanding individuals submitted their resumes to Dihuan Group. Who wouldn't want to work for such a great company that treats its employees so well? This can be considered a pleasant surprise. Today is the day to return from holiday. Following the advice of 3 elders, Dongfang stepped out, smoothly getting into the car as if eager to return to his beloved work. I think every student feels this way when returning from a holiday, right? Just as he settled into the car, the phone rang. Chairman, Happy New Year. It was Gao Yuan, his cheerful voice coming through the line, sounding in good spirits. Happy New Year, Yuan Gu. I'm on my way. See you at the company at noon. Are you worried I won't come? Haha. I'm just afraid you might forget. Your holiday was a bit too long. Don't worry, Yuan Gu. I remember. That's good. I have some things to report to you. Just waiting for your decision. After hanging up, Dongfang closed his eyes and quietly rested. At 11 a.m., Dongfang arrived punctually at the entrance of Dihuan Group. The security guard hurriedly opened the gate and reported to the superiors that the boss had returned. When the car stopped at the entrance of the headquarters, Dongfang saw a group of high-ranking officials from Dihuan Company waiting there. Boss, Chairman, Happy New Year. A chorus of familiar faces greeted him with clasped hands. This is the new etiquette of Dihuan Group, fully promoting the ancient culture of the nation. Happy New Year, everyone. We don't have to make too many compromises. Just get the work done, and I will be very satisfied. Everyone, focus on your own tasks. The meeting will start promptly at 2 p.m. As the crowd dispersed, only Gao Yuan remained waiting. Chairman, your hands-off approach is really wearing me out. Gao Yuan joked, indicating he had completely shifted his mindset. He was neither overly compliant nor arrogant. Those who can do more work, do more, right? Let's talk as we walk. Dongfang was the first to enter the building, with Gao Yuan closely following. Chairman, our talent reserve plan for the aerospace sector has been fully completed. And today a large batch of excellent talents has joined the company. Gao Yuan reiterated the situation regarding the base, clearly eager to soothe these senior talents while they waited, which was no easy task. After Dongfang checked on the construction status of the base in the desert, he finally spoke up. The base is ready. Let's get everyone organized and prepare to start work there. This is fantastic. They can hardly wait. Do you have a candidate for the head of the aerospace base? Dongfang asked about what he was concerned about, as the aerospace base is a significant part of his future plans. Not just anyone can handle it. I have a candidate named Yu Xingrui. He just turned 40 this year, holds a PhD from the Capital Aerospace University, and is a partner at the first private aerospace company in the country. However, due to insufficient technical reserves and difficulty in securing orders, the company's development has hit a bottleneck, leaving him with nothing to do all day. Upon hearing about our moon landing plans, he gave up his partnership, left everything behind, and joined our company to pursue his dream. He has rich management experience and is also a technical talent, making him the top candidate. In fact, he is the only candidate. As they spoke, the two had already entered Dongfang's office and settled onto the sofa. Why is he the only candidate? Why doesn't he go to a research institution? People like him can't stand the ecosystem within the system, and you understand that without me saying it. The reason he is the only candidate is that, in our country, those with relevant experience are all in classified agencies. No one looks at our small company. Dongfang nodded, realizing that Gao Yuan had indeed put in a lot of effort. All the information was thoroughly investigated and the analysis was quite on point. Is his character up to standard? If there are issues with his character, we can't keep him no matter how capable he is. You can rest assured. I have already conducted a thorough investigation. He is purely a technical talent who only wants to focus on technology and doesn't care about making money. The disagreements with the other partners stemmed from this, which led to his discontent and decision to leave everything behind. He is very pleased to join us. And that company is also relieved to send away someone who only focuses on technology. It's a win-win situation. That's great. This is exactly what I need. We are not short on money. Dongfang laughed heartily, appearing quite satisfied. Sure, let him come. You are responsible for notifying all personnel from the aerospace subsidiaries that this afternoon, we will fly directly to the Great Desert. The aerospace base is officially setting sail. Chapter 182. Entering the base due to the long holiday, even though Dongfang was busy, holding a meeting to gather everyone's thoughts was essential. However, there was only one topic to discuss, so the meeting was brief. After just half an hour, Dongfang wrapped up the meeting, leaving the implementation details to the department heads. At exactly 3:00 p.m., in the small square in front of the Earth Environment Group building, 3 buses produced by the Earth Environment Automobile Company were parked, filled with people. Only a few individuals were standing in front of the buses, seemingly waiting for someone. Among them was a middle-aged man wearing rimmed glasses and sporting short hair, standing at the front in a signature Zhongshan suit of the Earth Environment Group. He stood straight, with a determined gaze fixed ahead, his skin slightly tanned, giving him a robust appearance. At that moment, Dongfang walked over, followed by Gao Yuan, Wang Bo, and 2 sturdy bodyguards in black. Although Yu Xingrui had never seen Dongfang before, upon witnessing the confident young man with a commanding presence, he immediately recognized him as the legendary big boss with substantial financial influence. Without a doubt, Dongfang. He quickly stepped forward, extended his hand, and said, "Hello, Chairman. I am Yu Xingrui." Without waiting for Gao Yuan to speak, he introduced himself, clearly confident in his judgment. "Hello." Dongfang shook his hand gently. "Chairman, all 106 company personnel are present. Shall we depart now?" Dongfang glanced sideways, noticing that Yu Xingrui was quite straightforward, asking directly without any preamble. "Then let's set off." Dongfang wasted no time and turned to board the bus. "Gao Ge, just like before, you handle the company matters. Call me if anything comes up. Ensure the mission is completed." Gao Yuan chuckled and stood at attention, saluting. Dongfang pointed at him and said nothing more, taking a seat on the bus. This time, it was Yu Xingrui who was surprised. First, he didn't expect the senior management to have such harmonious relationships. Second, the big boss was so approachable and frugal, actually traveling with everyone on the bus. Third, having such a boss surely meant that there would be no unnecessary bureaucracy in the future, which he appreciated the most. "Old Yu, what are you dazing for? Hurry up and get on the bus." Dongfang shouted with a smile upon seeing him standing at the bus door, lost in thought. "Oh." Yu Xingrui finally reacted and quickly boarded the bus. "Chairman, I was lost in thought." He chuckled awkwardly and sat behind Dongfang. "Relax. I'm not particular about those things. As long as you do your job well, everything else is not an issue. Let us talk about your work experience during this long journey." "Okay, Chairman. I was born in '73 and got into Xi'an Industrial University at the age of 18. The vehicle started and slowly drove away from the small square. Dongfang gained a deeper understanding of Xingrui, recognizing that he possesses solid knowledge in aerospace. During his doctoral studies, his research focused on aircraft design and manufacturing, which led him to transition from a developer to a partner in a private aerospace company. Dongfang took the opportunity to ask several questions about aircraft engines, attitude control systems, and remote sensing control systems. Xingrui answered quickly and demonstrated divergent thinking, even proposing potential problems and solutions for practical applications. Dongfang silently acknowledged him as a good candidate and decided to entrust the subsidiary's leadership to him. Moreover, he planned to focus his main efforts on the aerospace subsidiary for a period, so as long as Xingrui handled the research and development well, the overall direction would be under his control. With no further distractions, the group boarded a direct flight to the Xinjiang Autonomous Region. 2 hours and 30 minutes later, the plane landed at Wanfang International Airport, which is only 11 kilometers from the desert. A bus driven by a bionic robot was already waiting outside the airport. So as soon as the employees exited, they headed straight to the desertification control base. Although the journey was short, the employees were still captivated by the spectacular desert scenery. Dongfang even stopped the bus and allowed enough time for everyone to take photos. Laughter and joy filled the desert, and everyone's social media received countless likes. Employees who had no concept of desert life were momentarily immersed in the exotic atmosphere of the desert. After a brief stop, the group continued on their way, and the short distance of just over 10 kilometers didn't take long to cover. With no obstructions, many noticed the newly constructed Desert Aerospace Base. The architectural style was similar to that of the headquarters of a certain group. Besides a 16-story office building, the rest consisted of low-rise structures such as workshops and laboratories. As the bus slowed down and entered the base, Xingrui was taken aback. He had expected the so-called aerospace base to be merely a plot of sandy land with a sign. To his surprise, what lay behind the walls was not sand at all. Instead, it resembled regular land, with a quiet office building standing ahead, entirely clad in glass curtain walls, reflecting vibrant colors in the sunlight. There were also brand new launch pads and vast production workshops, along with thriving red willows lining the roadside. If it weren't for his rational mind reminding him that he was indeed in the desert, he would have thought he had returned to the inland. However, what he didn't know was that just over 10 days ago, this place was indeed just a desert. Dongfang was the first to get off the bus, fully aware of the changes at the base, but experiencing it in person was vastly different from what he had seen in videos. It felt as if it had all happened yesterday. The small villas and seedling center platforms that used to be there had vanished, replaced by an office building that bore a striking resemblance to a rocket. A building serves as the central line, with a plot of land on the left side where more than 10 small villas and 10 10-story residential buildings have been constructed. On the right side, there are various production workshops, including engine manufacturing and shell processing, among others. The oil depot is located at the northernmost part of the entire base, while the restaurant, supermarket, hospital, school, and fitness center are all available. This is not just a base, it's practically a miniature city. Nova's products are always of high quality. Chairman, I didn't expect you to have such a small city in the desert. What is this? If we could build such a small city on the moon, that would be my wish, said Dongfang with great meaning. This is also my lifelong dream, daring to reach for the moon and able to catch turtles in the 5 oceans. Yu Xingrui said confidently while standing in front of the building. A rumbling sound came. Chairman, what are we having for lunch? Chapter 183. Project approval. A sumptuous roast whole lamb left the employees with greasy mouths and extremely satisfied. Then came the distribution of keys. Yes, everyone gets a unit in the newly completed residential building. The apartments are fully furnished and ready to move in. Every employee who came to the desert base gets one, and those who have worked with the company for over 20 years receive theirs as a gift. After Dongfang's series of initiatives, even employees who had initially planned to resign upon seeing the desolate desert suppressed their impulses. The first day in the desert passed smoothly. The next day at 10 a.m., as Dongfang walked out of his new villa, he spotted a familiar white camel. Although it hadn't been seen for several days, it still recognized Dongfang at first sight and immediately ran over, opening its mouth to call out, as if missing him. Seeing the little camel sticking out its long tongue, Dongfang quickly reached out to stop it. Not knowing which dog it learned from, the little camel, realizing it couldn't reach Dongfang's face, looked at him with a mournful expression. Go drink some milk. Dongfang laughed at its forlorn gaze. After leaving a bionic robot to feed the little camel, he quickly walked to the company's restaurant to ensure that all employees can work with peace of mind. The restaurant at the aerospace base is completely different from those of other subsidiaries. It not only provides 3 meals a day, but also does so completely free of charge. Breakfast is abundant and varied. Whether you are from the south or the north, you can find your favorite food in this restaurant. This is why Dongfang rushed to the restaurant first. After enjoying a delicious breakfast, Dongfang leisurely entered his large office located on the top floor of the building. At a glance, he saw a box placed on the shelf. This was a grand gift from the camel. Although he hadn't noticed anything unusual before, he still kept it in his villa, hoping to discover something one day. Unexpectedly, Nova had transferred it here. Then the safe beside his desk must still contain the 4 jade tablets. Sure enough, Dongfang found them inside. As he was playing with the jade tablet, a knock on the door interrupted him. Come in. It was Yu Xingrui, who had arranged to meet with him yesterday. Chairman, our meals are quite good, and the taste is excellent. Before the door was fully opened, the hearty laughter of the dark-skinned man came through. Old you, as long as you like it. That's what matters. Sit down and talk. Seeing it was Yu Xingrui, Dongfang didn't think much of it, and casually placed the jade slip on his desk, gesturing to the chair opposite him. I love it. I like it so much. Not only is it delicious, but it's free. You're truly a great boss. While speaking, he glanced at the desk. That glance left him stunned. Wasn't this the jade that had been passed down through generations in his family? The drawing his grandfather gave him was exactly the same as this jade tablet. But didn't his grandfather say it had been destroyed long ago when he passed away? How could it be in the hands of the big boss? Had he been deceived, or was this the jade his family had spoken of? No. It could also be true. One question after another emerged in his mind, leaving him dazed at the table. What's wrong? Old you, why are you in a daze? You don't need to think about work all the time. We need to balance work and rest. Dongfang noticed that Yu Xingrui seemed lost in thought, assuming he was still preoccupied with work like yesterday, so he teased him a bit. Oh, Yu Xingrui finally reacted, suppressing the heavy doubts in his heart as he sat down opposite Dongfang. Should he say it or not? This was only the second time meeting the boss. Should he directly mention that he had been deceived? No, that wouldn't work. You shouldn't speak too deeply when the relationship is still shallow. Old you. I'm not criticizing you, but this state of mind is not good. You can't always think about work. Your health can't take it. What if you get sick? Who will manage this big company? Dongfang could never have imagined that old you was not thinking about work at all, but rather the jade slip at hand. Chairman, it's fine. I'm used to it. Yu Xingrui's face flushed. Was he breaking his habit of never lying today? However, because of his dark skin, no one noticed. Habits need to change. All right, let us get back on track. Let me first talk about the situation of the subsidiary. As you can see, our company's hardware facilities have all been completed. We have various types of factories, capable of processing everything from rocket engines to screws, all in the aviation company. It's no exaggeration to say that as long as we have materials and blueprints, we can build a rocket right now. But I only know a bit about the current survival status of private aerospace enterprises in Huagua and their technological levels from information available online. So, I would like to hear your opinions as a senior industry insider regarding the company's future, main development direction, and business scope. Regarding technology, Dongfang was never lacking. However, he still had some concerns about how to fully enter the industry without exposing any flaws. The entire planet is currently in a state of extreme instability, which has led to a significant increase in the control over sensitive industries by the relevant authorities. Therefore, the organization is preparing to readjust its plans and invite this individual. When it comes to his beloved aerospace industry, Yu Xingrui immediately forgets about the previous matters. Chairman, you've asked the right person. Most of the private aerospace companies in the country were established in 2015, primarily due to strong government support. As of now, the number of registered aerospace companies has reached 112, which is quite substantial. However, due to issues such as funding and technology, most of these companies have hit a bottleneck and are in a state of stagnation. Only a few leading companies are still performing relatively well. The main reason for this is insufficient technological reserves, particularly regarding rocket engines. They primarily focus on liquid fuel engines, while the more straightforward and reliable solid fuel engines are still in the experimental development stage. Originally, the company Starry Glory planned to conduct the maiden flight of a solid fuel rocket in 2022, but there has been no news since, likely due to unresolved technical challenges. As you can see, the current situation for private aerospace is not very promising. Are you sure about this? Although I am confident in my ability to develop rocket engines, it will take time. Yu Xingrui laid out everything he knew without considering whether this information would deter the organization from pursuing aerospace development. Since no domestic company can achieve this, let us be the first. Today, we will initiate the project for solid fuel rocket engines. I have plenty of funds. Dongfang chuckled. Technical challenges have never been an issue for him. Chairman, have you truly made this decision? Even if there are no immediate returns. Yu Xingrui, somewhat incredulous, sought confirmation again. Knowing that a businessman's nature is to seek profit, he was quite worried about encountering partners like before, who could be abruptly dismissed. The money itself wasn't the primary concern. He feared wasting his efforts. Let me be clear, our company's working capital is. Dongfang raised a finger and shook it. 1 billion? Yu Xingrui pushed the limits of his imagination regarding finances, declaring a hefty figure. That's enough. That will allow us to develop the first-generation commercial rocket. Dongfang smiled, revealing that the current working capital was around 10 billion. So you can proceed confidently. To prevent you from having a heart attack, I only disclosed 1/10 of the actual amount, mainly to reassure you. At the same time, I wanted to share some of our company's true capabilities with the employees at the desert base, fostering a sense of belonging and security. No longer thinking about changing jobs or anything like that. Ah, that's great. Boss, you go ahead and get busy. I'll prepare the RD work plan. Let us get started today. Yu Xingrui felt ecstatic and didn't wait for Dongfang to say anything before bouncing out of the door, heading straight to his office. Dongfang looked at this middle-aged man who showed no signs of scheming and couldn't help but smile broadly. His luck was indeed quite good, always encountering such dedicated technical talents. It seemed that fortune was turning for the better. After a silent smile, Dongfang opened the computer on his desk. He needed to design a liquid engine and a solid fuel engine. The difference between the two types of engines lies in the fact that solid rocket engines use solid propellants, which consist of solidified chemical substances, energy, and working fluid, as propellants. Liquid rocket engines use liquid propellants, utilizing liquid chemical substances, energy, and working fluid, as propellants. The second difference is that solid rocket engines mainly consist of 4 parts: the casing, solid propellant, nozzle assembly, and ignition device. While liquid rocket engines generally consist of a thrust chamber, propellant supply system, and engine control system. Regarding their respective advantages and disadvantages, the advantages of solid rocket engines include stronger plume radiation and more smoke, among others. Disadvantages include relatively simple design and fewer components. The advantages of liquid rocket engines include typically higher specific impulse, weaker plume radiation, and less smoke. However, their disadvantages include relatively complex design, more components, and a greater number of potential failure modes. After going through these factors in his mind, Dongfang opened the rocket engine design and simulation software, the renowned PROE. Dongfang first started with the thrust chamber design, which is also composed of 3 parts: the injector, combustion chamber, and nozzle. Thus, the thrust chamber can be considered the core of the engine. The main function of the injector is to atomize, mix, and burn the propellant, liquid fuel, by introducing it into the combustion chamber at a certain flow rate and mixing ratio. Therefore, the challenge lies in how to mix the propellant and what the flow rate should be. In the aerospace industry, the mainstream injectors are mainly of 3 types: direct, centrifugal, and coaxial. Since it was Dongfang handling this, naturally, he wouldn't let any of them go. The direct injector has a simple and compact structure, suitable for large thrust chambers. The centrifugal injector has higher atomization and mixing efficiency, but its complexity and larger size are drawbacks. The coaxial type consists of many coaxial nozzles, suitable for liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen engines. Each type of engine has its own difficulties, but for Dongfang, who owns Dihuan Star Technology, this was incredibly simple. Since the centrifugal type is the most challenging, Dongfang naturally started with it. 30 minutes later, he completed the design of a rather unique injector, which featured many large nozzles, with vortex generators placed inside. Xiao Nuo, simulate and test the performance. Okay, master. After handing the design drawings and simulation models to the biocomputer assistant, Dongfang began the design of the remaining 2 injectors. This time, he adopted a shower-type nozzle design, similar to the shower heads commonly used at home, though much larger in size. To ensure that the fuel jets do not collide during injection, he continued to leave the simulations to Xiao Nuo. Dongfang then started the design of the 3rd type of coaxial injector. Unlike the previous 2, the coaxial design resembles a cylinder with a pointed nozzle directed inward at the back. The cylinder is divided into 2 parts. The inner section stores liquid oxygen, while the outer section holds liquid hydrogen. During mixing, the inner nozzle ejects liquid oxygen, while the annular gap releases liquid hydrogen. The liquid hydrogen is then heated through the cooling jacket of the thrust chamber, vaporizing it before mixing with the liquid oxygen ejected from the inner nozzle, and finally entering the combustion chamber for combustion. After 2 hours, Dongfang completed the design of the injection chamber. Next was the combustion chamber. There is nothing much to say about it. It is simply the equipment used to burn fuel. Thus, Dongfang designed 3 types of combustion chambers: the 2 bundle type, made of many brazed pipes with varying cross-sections; the corrugated plate type, constructed from brazed inner and outer walls with a corrugated plate in between; and the milled groove type, where the inner and outer walls are directly brazed together. For other companies, the difficulty often lies in the materials. However, for the company in question, this posed no issue for Dongfang. This part took even less time, only 1 hour, for him to complete the designs for the 3 types of combustion chambers. He continued to hand them over to Xiao Nuo. Dongfang finally entered the last part of the engine design, the nozzle. Some might say, isn't it just a nozzle? What's so difficult about that? But if one thinks that way, they are gravely mistaken. The nozzle is the outlet for the high temperature. high-pressure gas from the combustion chamber and is a crucial component for energy conversion in rocket engines, directly affecting engine performance. The basic functions of the nozzle are twofold. First, to control the mass flow rate of the gas through the throat size of the nozzle, in order to manage the pressure inside the combustion chamber. Second, to control the direction and attitude of the vehicle's flight, allowing for thrust vector control via the nozzle. Therefore, it is an extremely important component of rockets. With as many as 5 types, such as converging nozzles, converging-diverging nozzles, also known as Laval nozzles, adjustable nozzles, and so forth. Different application scenarios require different types of nozzles. In rocket engines, the most suitable is the Laval nozzle, which resembles a gourd and features a narrow waist in the middle to converge the ejected airflow, achieving high-speed jetting of gas. This time, Dongfeng took 40 minutes to complete the nozzle design, with the difficulty also lying in the choice of materials. Master, I have completed the simulation validation and optimized the combination using the injector, combustion chamber, and nozzle you designed, resulting in 3 rocket engines. Their performance far exceeds the current mainstream rocket engines. The blueprints have been sent to your computer, and I would appreciate it if you could name them. After a moment of contemplation, Dongfeng replied, let's call them Kunpeng DH01, DH02, and DH03. Chapter 185, Strength Nova. The Kunpeng-type rocket engine has been designed. Please directly decompose it into a processing atlas based on the design. Dongfeng knew that Nova would be unable to complete this task. So he sent the design blueprints to Nova. Perhaps it took 1 second, perhaps 2. Just as Dongfeng finished stretching, Nova appeared before him. Captain, the atlas has been completed. Dongfeng remained silent and opened the blueprints Nova sent back. It was indeed a processing atlas. The atlas included all the component drawings of the Kunpeng rocket engine, with complete dimension annotations, surface roughness, tolerance ranges, and materials used. Nova even thoughtfully added the necessary machine tools and equipment. Dongfeng nodded in satisfaction. These blueprints met the practical standards, and he believed that once these blueprints were sent to the machining center, he would soon have a rocket engine. Should I first make a verification machine for ground testing? Dongfeng pondered for a moment, but ultimately abandoned the idea. It would be too easy to expose everything. He had just officially opened the base and already completed the rocket engine design. Forget it. Besides, this was only part of the rocket. He still had to complete the nose cone, oxidizer tank, fuel tank, instrument compartment, stage interconnection, tail section, and separation connection device. With that thought, Dongfeng completely set aside the idea of making a prototype and decided to wait until all designs were completed before making arrangements. At that moment, a knock sounded at the door. Chairman, are you busy? Yu Xingrui entered the room. Old Yu, have you completed the proposal so quickly? Dongfeng was surprised, looking at the report in his hand. Yes, this is something I have been working on for years. The planning was already finished. But since you mentioned that our group's funds are so ample, I made some adjustments, so it didn't take much time. Yu Xingrui quickly explained the situation and placed the proposal in front of Dongfeng. Take a look. Good. Knowing Yu Xingrui's character, Dongfeng did not waste words and picked up the proposal, which was about 1 centimeter thick. On the current development status of private aerospace enterprises in Huagua and the company's recent development plan. Wow, the title is quite grand. I wonder if it has substance. After muttering a few words, Dongfeng continued to look down. After entering 2018, the development speed of private commercial aerospace enterprises in the country accelerated, with representative events from these enterprises emerging one after another. Among them, companies like Interstellar Glory, 01 Space, and Blue Arrow Aerospace are competing in space, marking a new competitive landscape in the commercial aerospace market. The previous sections elaborated extensively, mainly conveying 2 points. First, the latest data from the Aerospace Foundation shows that the global aerospace economy has reached $383.5 billion, with commercial aerospace revenue at $307.3 billion, accounting for approximately 81% of the total. Government aerospace revenue is $76.2 billion, making up about 19.9%. Furthermore, commercial aerospace revenue continues to grow at a rate of 5% annually, making it a very promising industry with great prospects and substantial profits. Second, although the market is continuously expanding, the relatively short entry time of private enterprises into the aerospace industry has resulted in lagging technology and competitiveness far inferior to that of developed countries. However, due to recent international turbulence, enterprises in those developed countries have been significantly impacted, making this an opportune time for full-scale entry. As for the company's planning, the second part includes, first, a strong focus on developing spacecraft, such as satellites and spacecraft. Second, developing rockets, which are also known as launch vehicles. It is essential to advance both simultaneously to ensure the competitiveness of the enterprise. Dongfeng thoughtfully closed the planning book and looked up to see Yu Xingru, gazing at him expectantly. Chairman, what do you think? Not bad, Dongfeng chuckled. You are well prepared. You have successfully convinced me. You can take charge of the implementation. Really? Am I joking? Dongfang tapped the planning book in his hand, looking at the middle-aged man with a half-smile. Always questioning his decisions, he needed to be reminded. I understand. You continue with your work. I'll go call everyone for a meeting to arrange related matters. I'll report back if there's something important. After saying that, he left Dongfang, who was staring wide-eyed, and turned to exit. Well, consider yourself clever. This time you pass. Dongfang chuckled, opened the monitor, and leaned back over the computer. This time, he needed to design the rocket structure. What exactly is a rocket? Dongfang recalled its definition. A rocket is a vehicle propelled forward by the reaction force generated by the exhaust of a rocket engine, carrying all its propellant without relying on external substances to generate thrust. It can fly both in dense atmospheres and in the vacuum of space, serving as a launch vehicle for achieving spaceflight. Rockets can be classified into sounding rockets and launch vehicles. Of course, the well-known Dongfeng Express also falls under the category of rockets. Dongfeng worked quickly. The first thing he completed was the nose cone. Unlike what people see on television, it actually has a clamshell structure consisting of two side panels, with an end cap, a forward cone section, a cylindrical section, an inverted cone section, and both longitudinal and transverse separation mechanisms. Next comes the propellant storage tank, which serves as the container for storing propellant and is part of the rocket's load-bearing structure, referred to as the core stage in his country. Its volume occupies a large portion of the rocket's overall size. The designer favored a cylindrical shape, though other shapes like conical, frustum, spherical, ring-shaped, and lentil-shaped are also viable options. The instrument compartment adopts a cylindrical semi-rigid shell structure, positioned inside the compartment with support components for easy storage of instruments. Finally, there's the tail section, which acts as a protective device for the rocket engine. Therefore, the designer took a bit more time here. Since there was no rocket launch pit constructed at the base, he designed the support point at the tail of the rocket to enhance the rocket's static stability. He also incorporated tail fins. The design continues to use a multi-opening semi-rigid cylindrical structure, which reduces the rocket's own weight while improving its ability to withstand changes in external conditions. At this point, the designer completed a fully functional liquid fuel rocket design. A 3D model of the rotating rocket appeared before him, measuring 583 meters in length with a core stage diameter of 335 meters, composed of 4 boosters, Core Stage 1, Core Stage 2, a spacecraft fairing, and an escape tower. Captain, what do you plan to call it? Nova asked, filled with admiration. The designer stood up, gazing at the azure sky over the desert, slowly uttering 2 words, strength. Launch vehicle. Chapter 186. Concerns without needing further instructions from the designer. Nova immediately generated a production atlas and sent it to his computer. Just like before, the atlas was comprehensive and ready for immediate use. After a quick glance, the designer pressed the print button. It took a full half hour to print the atlas. Just as he was about to get impatient and check on the progress, the printer stopped. At that moment, a bionic robot entered, approaching the printer without needing any direction from the designer, and began binding the printed materials. The designer stood up, stretching his back, and glanced at the time. 5:10 p.m. He hadn't expected that designing such a straightforward launch vehicle would take over 5 hours. How would he manage designing spacecraft and starships in the future? Even with support from surrounding technology, it would become increasingly challenging. He realized it was time to start training talent, as technological development would only become more advanced, and it was beyond what one person could handle. He muttered to himself about nurturing talent, though he still hadn't figured out how to implement this idea. Forget it, I'll take it slow for now. I can handle it alone for the time being. I'll think about it after dinner. By the time he reached the cafeteria, it was already 6 o'clock p.m. The cafeteria was filled with employees having their meals, but the sun was still shining brightly. It dawned on him that he had forgotten to announce the new working hours. Yu Chunrui was also there, and when the designer spotted him, he was absent-mindedly bringing a bowl of noodles to his mouth. His eyes were unfocused, seemingly lost in thought about something very important, and it appeared he couldn't taste the food at all. Dongfang chuckled and approached his table. Hello, Chairman. Employees naturally recognized the young president, so they greeted him along the way. As he walked, he nodded continuously until he reached Yu Chunrui's side. Old Yu, what are you thinking? Do you know what the food tastes like? Yu Chunrui was contemplating the tasks assigned to him by Dongfang. After leaving the chairman's office, he had been deep in thought. The young chairman was ambitious and fearless of failure, but all his technical know-how was acquired during his time at the previous company. Now, at the new company, he found it impossible to apply that knowledge. He was torn between whether to redevelop the technology or to purchase some mature technologies to work on satellites first. Should he ask the boss if there are any technological reserves? But how could he bring that up? Just as he was pondering this, he heard someone calling his name. He looked up to find it was indeed the big boss. How coincidental. He forced a smile and said, Chairman, you're here for a meal too? I wasn't thinking of anything specific, They say the hardest part is the first step, but now that we've taken it, I'm not sure how to proceed. Oh. An employee sitting across from Yu Qingrui quickly stood up and offered his seat. Chairman, please sit. Dongfang nodded and took a seat. If you have any difficulties, you should report them to me, the big boss. Go ahead. Dongfang was a bit surprised. He had thought Yu Qingrui was still lost in the sea of technology. Unexpectedly, he was now concerned about the company's development. Chairman, I reported to you that we need to walk on two legs, but as soon as I left your office, I realized something. Other private enterprises are struggling with insufficient technological reserves and hitting bottlenecks. But I forgot that we are a brand new company with far less technological reserves than others. In fact, my proposal is more applicable to my former partner. Yu Qingrui felt his face flush, but it wasn't very noticeable due to his dark complexion. Dongfang, of course, didn't catch it. He chuckled, realizing he had never really considered the technology issue. Meanwhile, Yu Qingrui was stuck in his previous company's mindset. No wonder their thoughts aligned so well. This was the crux of the matter. You don't need to worry about the technology reserve issue. Tell me, if we were to build a rocket, how would we launch it? What are the policy requirements? Simply put, launching a rocket involves 4 steps. First, we need to have a rocket. Second, we must obtain the launch permit from the authorities. Third, we need a launch site, which I've already seen. The 4th step is the launch. It turns out it's quite simple. How do we go about getting the permit? Yu Qingrui cast a glance at Dongfang, realizing that this boss was even less reliable than himself. He was already thinking about obtaining permits without even having a rocket shell. Do you know how difficult it is to get those permits? We need to submit 3 documents to the relevant scientific and technological management department. 1. An application for a permit for a civilian aerospace launch project and qualification review materials for the applicant. 2. Materials proving that the project complies with environmental protection laws and regulations. 3. We also need to provide the scheduled launch time, technical requirements between the satellite, launch vehicle, and launch and measurement control communication systems, detailed orbital parameters of the launch vehicle, and a survey report of the landing area or recovery site, as well as detailed orbital parameters of the satellite and documents regarding frequency resource usage. If the project involves overseas launch site work, we must submit legally valid copies of documents such as the launch vehicle and satellite orbital parameters, as well as copies of permits for using relevant frequency resources. Yu Qingrui took a breath and continued. After the documents are submitted, the management department will review our materials. Once they pass the review, we still need to apply for expert assessment. However, let's put the permit issue aside for now. Chairman, do you think we should start with liquid rockets or solid rockets? Since we need to walk on 2 legs, we should do both. Dongfang replied. You first divide the researchers into 2 groups, one for liquid and one for solid. Administrative staff, prepare the materials immediately and leave the permit issues to me. With that, the 2 had no more conversation, and Yu Qingrui finally set his mind at ease, enjoying his meal. Since the boss had made a decision, Yu Qingrui immediately threw himself into the work. The aerospace company's R&D team consisted of 72 people, so each group had 36 members. However, since they were relatively young and previously only worked as researchers at the institute, apart from Yu Qingrui being able to lead the liquid group, the other group had no leader. No choice. Dongfang had to step in personally and fully engage in the rocket R&D work. To further increase efficiency, Dongfang divided the solid group into 6 smaller teams, each responsible for a specific aspect, such as the engine team, fuel team, and so on. The previously slow solid group, after this restructuring, progressed rapidly and completed the rocket development in just half a month. Meanwhile, the liquid group had only just begun designing the rocket engine. In desperation, Yu Qingrui had to ask the boss to participate again in the liquid group's R&D. Just like the solid rocket, the liquid rocket development was also completed in just half a month. On March 3, 2023, the day after completing the rocket development work, Yu Qingrui arrived at Dongfang's office early in the morning. Chairman, shall we proceed to produce the prototype? His face had turned a bit pale. It seemed that the original tan from outdoor work was not as dark as it appeared. You just take care of these matters. Are the documents ready? The matter of the permit can be put on the agenda. I submitted it to the approval department this morning. Chapter 187 Bro, can you help me get a certificate? I understand. You go ahead with your work, and I'll take care of the rest. Yu Qingrui nodded and turned to head out the door. By the way, Lao Yu, don't underestimate the technicians in our workshop just because they are young. Their skills are top-notch. Just hand them the blueprint, and they'll handle it. Chairman, I understand. Dongfang watched him leave, feeling quite pleased. Right now, you seem indifferent, but when you actually see the prowess of these bionic robots, that scene will be something. After Yu Qingrui left, Dongfang picked up the phone and dialed. Yugo, are you busy? It turned out he was calling Zhao Jinyu. I am busy, but if you call, I have to answer. Zhao's nonchalant voice came through, and Dongfang could even picture his expression. They say seeing a letter is like meeting in person. For Dongfang, hearing his voice was just as good. So you're not busy anymore? How's old Wang doing lately? Old Wang's illness has completely healed, which Dongfang already knew. So Zhao Jinyu understood that Dongfang was asking about the situation after he returned home. Very well. He can eat and sleep, busy exercising every day, saying he can no longer be a burden to his descendants. You can just tell me what you need. We don't have to beat around the bush. As long as I can do it, there won't be any second thoughts. Zhao Jinyu became serious, as if he couldn't express his feelings otherwise. You go. Then I won't be polite. Last time, I asked Grandpa Wang to stay for treatment while I went out. Actually, I built a space base in the desert. Dongfang explained the reason for his absence during the treatment, paused for a moment, and continued. The base has been completed. And we have also developed 2 types of launch vehicles. What the heck, Fang? You're doing something so big that Blue Star can't contain you anymore. You're planning to play in space. Zhao Jinyu was genuinely shocked, realizing Dongfang had quietly accomplished such a significant feat. Come on. With you playing at such a high level, what can I help you with? This is just the beginning. Wait until you see even more advanced stuff. Dongfang subtly revealed some information, which also served to lay the groundwork for future bigger moves through this influential figure. But we don't have the certificate, bro. Can you help me get one? What certificate are you talking about? Be clear with me, or I won't be able to help. Zhao Jinyu chuckled, treating himself as someone who could issue permits, thinking he could just print whatever certificate he wanted. Hey, hang on, let me explain slowly. You know that launching a rocket requires approval from the tech department, right? I've already submitted the materials, but there are quite a few companies applying. And we're a bit down the list. Can you talk to Grandpa Zhao and see if we can get a green channel? How shameless. You just submitted it today? How could you be at the bottom of the list? Of course, Dongfang would never reveal that detail to him. No problem. I thought it was a big deal. No need to tell Grandpa. My childhood friend works in that department. I'll have a word with him. Zhao Jinyu readily agreed and hurriedly hung up the phone. Less than 10 minutes later, he called back. Fanger, you're not being fair. The application was submitted just today, just like that permit. Brother, you might not know, but you are aware of our company's capabilities. There are no issues on the technical side, and the materials fully meet the standard requirements. I guarantee it will pass the first review. I trust you, brother. Don't worry. I've already told my friend to work overtime tonight to review your materials first. If it doesn't pass the audit, we can't operate outside the regulations. Rest assured, I wouldn't let you down. All right, wait for my news. After hanging up the phone again, everything was naturally settled. They were just waiting for Zhao Jinyu's friend to review the materials later that night. Captain, do you have a moment? Nova appeared in front of Dongfang right after he hung up the phone. Go ahead. I've organized all the materials obtained from Athena. Do you need me to send them to you? Dongfang then remembered that after receiving the technical documents last time, he had asked Nova to reorganize them. But he had been busy with rocket development and completely forgot about it. He didn't expect Nova to take so long to sort them out. Nova, what good stuff do you have? I didn't expect it would take you so long with your computing power. Dongfang clasped his hands together, rubbing them continuously, with an expression of anticipation on his face. I'm afraid I might disappoint you. I noticed you were busy with research recently, so I didn't want to disturb you. Well, that was a bit of a letdown. Just tell me about the materials. I'm not really interested in looking closely. Okay, it's about the civilization of Atlantis. It's what people commonly refer to as the civilization of light, which is essentially just the application of lasers. They excel in using high-energy lasers. And due to the limited understanding of ancient people, they were described as immensely powerful. However, this civilization is heavily specialized, aside from energy applications. Their capabilities in other areas are comparable to the current level on Blue Planet. So, I picked out some distinctive technologies to send to you, hoping they might inspire you. All right, Dongfang replied weakly and clicked on the technical documents Nova had just sent. Indeed, as Nova described, the technological level of Atlantis was comparable to that of the current Blue Planet. However, in terms of energy applications, they surpassed humanity on Blue Planet significantly, with the most representative being the cold nuclear fusion reactor. This truly inspired him. What he didn't expect was that the technology used by Atlantis wasn't particularly advanced. Even with the current technology on Blue Planet, it could be achieved and even done better. This was interesting. Could they possibly manufacture nuclear-powered rockets? Nuclear-powered cars? Ships? Satellites? Spacecraft? Dongfang was immediately drawn in, carefully reading all the materials word by word. Engrossed in reading, he lost track of time. By the time he lifted his head again, the sun was nearly setting. Wow, I'm so hungry. As soon as Dongfang stood up, his stomach grumbled uncontrollably, and his phone chimed in too. Yugo, how's it going? When will the permit be issued? The rocket is already on the launch pad, eager to go. Seeing it was Zhao Jinyu, Dongfang immediately answered the call. Hunger and thirst could wait. After all, it was so hot in the desert. Who wouldn't be thirsty? Make sure to give it plenty of water. Zhao Jinyu laughed. No problem with the novel's materials. I'll have the expert group review it tomorrow. The permit should be issued within a week at the latest. You're amazing, Yugo. I'll treat you to a live rocket launch later. It'll be thrilling. Come on, your sister-in-law is still waiting for me, huh? Of course. You single folks wouldn't understand. That is quite hurtful and insulting. Dongfang hung up in frustration, unsure if Zhao Jinyu had caught that threat. Oh, the sorrow of being single. Chapter 188. Test run waiting always felt particularly long, even though he knew the permit would be ready within a week at the latest. Dongfang still felt it was too long. He paced back and forth in the engine manufacturing workshop, the shell manufacturing workshop, and the fuel production workshop. He watched as the various components of the rocket were completed at a visible speed. Biomechanical robots were indeed quite useful. On March 13, 2023, 3 days after the call with Zhao Jinyu, Dongfang, Yu Xingrui, and the company's researchers gathered in the underground laboratory located in the northeast corner of the base. The two rocket engines that were originally on the blueprints were now positioned on the test stand. Yu Xingrui, full of excitement, approached Dongfang, who was observing from the control room above. Chairman, we are all set. Should we start the engine test now? Dongfang nodded expressionlessly. Yu Xingrui opened his mouth to speak, but suddenly seemed to remember something and turned back. Chairman, why don't you give the command? This is our first experiment. You are more suited for it. Dongfang smiled. This old Yu is getting better at reading the room. We don't have so many formalities, just follow the plan. Understood. Chairman. Yu Xingrui sighed in relief. The first time they met, he thought the young chairman was approachable and down-to-earth. The second time, he found him clear-minded. And by the third meeting, he was astonished by his vast knowledge. It seemed there was nothing he didn't know. The more he learned, the more enigmatic this boss became, leaving him feeling somewhat intimidated when speaking to him now. Old Yu, hurry up, everyone is waiting. He thought too much again. All right, let us get started. All departments, get in position and report the status. He walked to the control panel and spoke. Injector, nozzle condition normal. Control system normal. Fuel supply normal. Ignition can proceed. By this time, he had completely forgotten about the East and was fully immersed in his favorite career, preparing to test the ignition. He began the countdown. 3, 2, 1, ignition. Yu Xingrui shouted excitedly, and even his dark face showed a hint of red, clearly indicating how thrilled he was. Dongfang smirked. It was amusing to see you so excited. If they were to launch a spacecraft in the near future, how would he react? Perhaps it wasn't just you. Everyone on the blue planet would be in awe as well. Just as he was daydreaming, a tremendous roar filled his ears. Dongfang looked ahead and saw a pale blue flame appear. Accompanying it were the staff members beside him continuously reporting various parameters. Ignition successful, recording parameters. Yu Xingrui was completely in his element. Received, current ignition time 9 seconds, collecting related data. Dynamic data shows sea level thrust of approximately 182 tons, converted based on gravity. Thrust to weight ratio, 7,247. Thrust coefficient, characteristic velocity, engine after effect impulse, propellant mass, mixture ratio. Good. After shutdown, check the post-use data. Yu Xingrui jumped up in joy. This data was enough to surpass most rocket engines on the blue planet. The number 1 ranked F1 rocket engine, used by Titan V, had a thrust of 320 tons and a thrust-to-weight ratio of 8,179, which was indeed a top-tier blue planet rocket engine. So, it was no wonder he was ecstatic. With red eyes, he returned to Dongfang's side. Chairman, we did it. As soon as he finished speaking, the control room erupted with excitement. We did it. We succeeded. They rushed over to Dongfang and Yu Xingrui, looking from side to side. Finally, they picked Yu Xingrui, some grabbing his legs and some his arms. And they tossed him into the air. Dongfang stood by with a smile, enjoying the atmosphere. This was the kind of state a young company should be in. When they finished their celebration, Dongfang called Yu Xingrui over. Get ready. As soon as the permit arrives, we'll launch. Okay, just as Zhao Jinyu had said. On the afternoon of the 7th day, Dongfang received a package sent from the capital. Of course, it came from the branch of the Earthring Company. Sending someone to run to the capital would have been too wasteful. Chairman, a package from the capital. Have we received our permit? A short-haired, capable-looking woman entered. She was different from the usual girls. Her skin was rough and quite dark. She wore a full denim outfit and sported a pair of domestically made sneakers. Her name was Hu Yang, and she was the secretary just assigned to him by the group company. Given her extensive experience in desert survival, Dongfang decided to keep her on. It should be, Dongfang replied as he took the package she handed him and glanced at it. Sure enough, it was correct. He quickly opened it and saw the certificates inside. The rocket launch project license has been issued, with the project licensing unit being the aerospace subsidiary of the Earth Environment Group. Hey, notify Lao Yu. Our documents are ready. Let's prepare for the launch tomorrow, said Dongfang with a smile. Got it. Seems like it's really happening. Hu Yang nodded and turned to leave the office. Dongfang leisurely leaned back in his chair, pulled out his phone, and began browsing the latest news. The first headline was about reptilians, who continued to be active on the land of a certain nation, causing quite a stir. After a light chuckle, Dongfang scrolled to the second trending topic. A certain country plans to discharge nuclear wastewater from Fukushima into the ocean in 3 days. He exclaimed, "Damn it, I haven't even dealt with you from last time. And you're already back again. Forgetful scoundrels." After a moment of venting, he continued reading. The certain nation fully supports the plans of the other country, stating that this can be safely discharged into the ocean. Dongfang cursed again. I've seen shameless, but not this level of shamelessness. When the younger brother does something disgraceful, the older brother just takes off his pants and puts them on his head, seriously savoring the smell. How amusing. With that thought, he chuckled to himself. In that case, let's make sure both nations get a taste of their own medicine. Let's set it for 3 days later. He called out, "Nova, let's plan another operation." In his mind's eye, he envisioned the bionic robot, which was sitting bored in the control room of the lunar base. Upon hearing Dongfang's call, it immediately straightened up. "Ready at your command, Captain." The bionic robot is almost rusting away. Who are we targeting this time? Chapter 189, Operation Prince Change this time. We are heading to the other country again, because they seem to have forgotten about the last incident at the shrine, and they want to stir things up again. Let's join in. Nova tilted its head and asked, "So when do we depart?" They plan to discharge during the day, right? Stirring things up during the day would expose us easily. We'll operate at sea, not on land. Dongfang chuckled, a mischievous smile on his face. Nova seemed to understand, stood up from its seat, and nodded expressionlessly. "Understood, Captain, as you wish." Early the next morning, many loyal fans of the Earth Environment Group discovered a pinned message on the official website. The aerospace subsidiary, established for half a year, though it's actually only been 2 months, will launch its first carrier rocket, Leisure, at the desert base on Blue Star in 3 days. On the morning of March 18th. Following this were some data about the rocket. But the most crucial part was the last sentence. Instead of focusing on the certain country's wastewater discharge, why not come watch the Leisure? Netizens immediately erupted with excitement, recognizing this as a bold stance against the other country. Moreover, some knowledgeable users pointed out that the data for this carrier rocket was exceptionally impressive, even surpassing many of the national team's rockets. So they frantically commented below. In no time, no one in the country was paying attention to the wastewater discharge issue anymore. This was exactly what Dongfang hoped to see. Since no one was paying attention, it naturally made it easier to carry out certain plans. 2 days passed swiftly as Dongfang delved into the study of Atlantis civilization. This time, he had completely mastered cold fusion technology, waiting only for the right moment to introduce it to the market. Wait a little longer, just a little longer. The landscape of the blue planet is about to change. The flag nation was too preoccupied with its own troubles, and the northern bear immediately shifted its stance. It's often said that interests come first between nations, and indeed, the bear showed its true colors, aspiring to become the second flag nation and lead the blue planet. They need something to keep them busy too. Dongfang chuckled, a glint flashing in his eyes. At 4:59 on the third morning, 1 second before the alarm went off, Dongfang opened his eyes. "Nova, are you ready?" "Of course. Always ready." This time, Nova did not appear in Dongfang's vision. Her voice echoed directly in his spacious bedroom. As her words faded, the lights in the room turned on. Dongfang saw her sitting quietly on the small sofa, her eyes fixed intently on him. "Nova, it's highly inappropriate for a female to enter a man's bedroom late at night. Do you know that?" Dongfang looked at her helplessly, grabbing the pajamas by the bedside and putting them on. "You're absolutely right. But I'm just an artificial intelligence. There's no distinction of gender." A hint of mischief flickered in Nova's eyes, and a barely noticeable smile touched her lips. "Still, it's not acceptable. I wasn't dressed. Wait for me in the living room from now on. I was just providing a wake-up service. What if you overslept?" Nova giggled, standing up from the sofa. Her figure made Dongfang's eyes widen. He quickly tightened his robe and hurried into the bathroom. Well, morning reactions are quite noticeable, he thought, sitting on the toilet and repeatedly reminding himself that no matter how beautiful she was still just a robot. But a ship girl from a spacecraft wouldn't be so bad, would it? Dongfang was exceptionally quick with his morning routine. 10 minutes later, he was already having breakfast inside the Starlight Fortress battleship that Nova had brought. "Captain, how is the fried dough stick today?" MHM, Dongfang nodded repeatedly, too preoccupied to engage. "And the tofu pudding?" Good, excellent. Just let me finish eating." Dongfang pushed Nova's head away as she leaned in. At 5:20, a massive spherical spacecraft appeared in the sky above the ocean, not far from a certain coastal power plant. "Captain, what's our plan of action?" On the bridge, Nova had completely shifted from her earlier demeanor, standing quietly by Dongfang's side. "How much wastewater is the power plant planning to discharge?" Dongfang didn't answer, but posed his own question instead. 1.25 million tons. They plan to release it in batches. Can the transport module of the Star Fortress store wastewater? Of course it can. The Star Fortress was originally designed for large-scale warfare. So it has specialized water storage tanks that can hold 3 million tons of fresh water. Are you planning to use it for wastewater? But why should we help them? Can it store wastewater? Will it cause pollution to the fortress? Dongfang chuckled. You're overthinking it. Today's operation is codenamed Switching the Prince with a Cat. And we need to do a big favor for certain countries. I understand now. Storing wastewater won't cause any pollution to the storage tank. The tank is equipped with a special protective shield. Not only a trace of tritium, but even if we added protium, deuterium, and tritium, it would absolutely not cause any pollution. Nova said seriously, then immediately switched to a cute expression. Captain, how do we switch it? Dongfang chuckled and leaned down to explain something to Nova. Shangquan is a security personnel at the Fukushima power plant. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, the company will discharge the first batch of nuclear wastewater into the sea. Therefore, the higher-ups have repeatedly and sternly demanded that he stay in the monitoring room, reporting any sign of trouble immediately, and the alert level has been raised to the highest. Under tight security, the plant remained calm, with no suspicious incidents occurring. So, after a tense night, Shangquan relaxed. He glanced at his watch. It was 5:30 a.m. It was the darkest time before dawn, so he felt particularly sleepy. His eyelids starting to droop, and yawns came one after another. A colleague on duty noticed his condition and nudged him with an elbow. Shangquan, hang in there. The shift change is at 7. Did you not rest well the day before yesterday? You look so sleepy. With the colleague's nudge, Shangquan felt a bit better. No. I knew I was on duty tonight, so I took a nap during the day. He didn't know what was happening. His eyelids just felt heavy. As soon as he finished speaking, he started yawning again. Yeah, I also feel sleepy, his colleague replied. Shangquan was influenced by him, and his previously somewhat alert mind immediately became fuzzy. His eyelids felt like they were weighed down by a 1,000-pound burden, and he could no longer hold on. With 2 loud thuds, their heads hit the table. Meanwhile, the monitor turned into a field of snow. Captain, they are all too tired. So everyone fell asleep at the same time. Let them have a good sleep. Let's go get what we need. Chapter 190. Switching the Prince with a Cat. Part 2. Nova kept nodding, grinning as he asked. You say, I do. Dongfang laughed, pointing at Nova. You've picked up these bad habits. Put away that ugly eating style of yours. We need to do things properly. Do those certain countries have the right to discharge wastewater? Let's go down. Let the bionic robots wait by the water storage tank. Understood. Nova stood straight with a blank expression. Nodding to signal that he was fully prepared, the spherical fortress suddenly vanished from above the Fukushima plant. In the next moment, it reappeared above the largest water storage tank at the site, completely defying the laws of physics on this planet. Then, the hatch at the bottom of the fortress slowly opened, and over 500 bionic robots were lowered by a tether beam. As soon as they reached the ground, they scattered in all directions, leaving only 3 by the largest storage tank. They cut open the tank and drained the water. Dongfang, comfortably seated on the bridge, watched the busy robots on the ground and issued the first command. Acknowledged, came the robot's response through the communication system. Dongfang then saw one of the robots ascend to the top of the storage tank. The mechanical arm transformed, and a red laser shot out. It sliced through the top of the tank as easily as cutting tofu, creating an opening of about 1 square meter. The other mechanical arm of the bionic robot gently grasped the steel plate and lifted it away. As the light shone down, Dongfang saw the wastewater stored in the tank. The water was indeed quite clear, seemingly as the locals had said, having undergone preliminary treatment. However, its color was strange, displaying an abnormal blue hue, extremely deep, with a hint of black. It did not resemble the state of water stored in a tank several dozen meters deep at all. Nova, look at this. The quality of this wastewater is terrible. If this is released into the sea. As Dongfang spoke, the hatch at the bottom of the fortress opened once again, and the wastewater was enveloped by a tether laser, continuously flying out from the storage tank and finally entering a specially designed storage compartment within the fortress. You're right. I just took a sample for testing, and the indicators of the wastewater are severely over the limit, with extremely high radiation intensity. Especially the content of the radioactive element tritium, which exceeds that of normal seawater by more than 1,200 times. These scoundrels. Dongfang cursed fiercely before bursting into laughter. The higher the levels, the better. Otherwise, the locals wouldn't be able to drink it comfortably. The human and the machine exchanged a smile. Since this was the largest storage tank, it took longer to extract the wastewater, taking a full 2 minutes to complete the extraction. Nova, this is taking too long. There must be about 1,000 storage tanks here, right? Yes, on average, each storage tank holds about 1,250 tons of wastewater. This largest one has a capacity of about 3,000 tons, so extracting all of it would take about 1,666 hours. It is indeed taking a bit long. Do we have any other options? We must complete all extraction and backfilling work within half an hour, which means we have to leave here in 600 seconds. There is still the next step to execute. Dongfang tapped on the table in front of him, recalling the technology of the ring planet. We could use. Nova seemed to think of something and began to speak. Then Dongfang chimed in, a single-element compression device. They both exclaimed in unison. Dongfang nodded and decided to use it. Nothing could be more suitable. Understood, Captain. However, we need to wait for 10 minutes, as the base on the far side of the moon is currently in production. Please hold on for a moment. Nova paused for a moment and then spoke. It had just remotely arranged for the fully automated production workshop at the base. In 10 minutes, Dongfang would receive over 2,000 compression devices. Sure enough, it didn't take long. 9 minutes later, a battleship appeared next to the fortress. Once it stopped, it immediately opened its belly hatch, and 1,000 bionic robots were pulled down to the ground by a traction beam. Each of them held a horn-like device. The front had a horn opening, while the back was a box-like metal container. The front of the box had a display screen, which was black since it hadn't powered on yet. Nova, speed up. We have only completed the extraction of 10 sewage tanks, Dongfang said, glancing at the watch. The current time was 5:42 a.m. Received. The bionic robots landed on the already opened sewage tank, just like before, aiming the horn-like device at the sewage inside the tank. They pressed a button on the front screen. A flash of light occurred, and a ring of purple light shot out from the horn. Then the screen displayed the volume and 3D model of the sewage in the tank. The robot tapped the screen again. The purple light retracted, and a ripple spread out from the horn. In just 1 minute, Dongfang saw the situation inside the sewage tank through the bionic robot's camera. A deep blue crystal, the size of a brick, was placed at the bottom of the tank. All the sewage had vanished. At this point, the spherical fortress and the battleship began to move simultaneously. Although the blue crystal appeared small, its weight was equivalent to that of the original water mass, making it impossible for the bionic robots to transport it. They swiftly flew over the water tank. Thick traction beams shot out and then retracted, with each blue crystal flying into the cabin, neatly stacked in the storage room. Report. All collections are expected to be completed by 5:51 a.m. Nova approached Dongfang and whispered the report. Then let's speed up. The locals are waking up soon. Dongfang noticed in the holographic image that nearby residents had already turned on their lights and were preparing breakfast. Understood. 10 nautical miles off the coast of the Fukushima power plant, a spherical war fortress also appeared. It quickly sank to the seabed, and the hatch located in the middle of the sphere opened. After the bionic robots activated their protective shields, they swam out, also holding compression devices. After dispersing, they activated their instruments. Blocks of blue crystals formed simultaneously. The fortress shot out traction beams and retracted them. At this moment, the previously calm sea surface surged with waves, creating a spectacular scene. The seawater continued to collapse, creating large pits that were quickly filled again, as if boiling. Suddenly, a larger collapse occurred, and the fortress that had completed its collection task took off, forming a spectacular waterfall. Chapter 191. Not a single one missing, Captain. Fortress 003 has completed the seawater collection task and will arrive in 20 seconds. Nova waved his hand, and a portion of the authority image in front of the eastern figure split, showing the flying spherical fortress. Let's get ready to start. The eastern figure supported his chin with one hand, a piercing cold light flashing in his eyes. At 5:49 a.m., 1,000 huge sewage tanks were left empty. The bionic robot stood quietly at the gap, looking up at the approaching spherical fortress. Its hatch was open, and as it flew over the sewage tank, a thick traction beam would descend again. Once the beam was retracted, a blue crystal appeared at the bottom of the sewage tank. The bionic robot would then immediately pick up the single-element compressor in its hand, aim it at the blue crystal at the bottom, and quickly press the button. 1 minute later, the sewage tank returned to its previous state of storing sewage. Then the robot picked up the metal plate it had just cut and welded it at the gap. The top of the sewage tank returned to its prior condition, and even a careful inspection would reveal no abnormalities. 1,000 bionic robots systematically completed such tasks. At 5:55 a.m., all work was finished. All the robots returned to the spacecraft with the help of the traction beams. The Fukushima power plant returned to its original calm. Let's go take a look at the bottled water company. Yes, Captain. The 3 ships' tails ignited and disappeared above the Fukushima power plant. Ah, that was a good sleep. A colleague of the mountain dog climbed up from the table, stretched a long yawn, and opened his eyes. Oh no, how did I fall asleep? That colleague turned his head and found the mountain dog still sleeping soundly, even smacking his lips as if dreaming of something delicious. Mountain dog. Mountain dog. He reached out and nudged the mountain dog's shoulder. What is it? I was sleeping perfectly. The mountain dog opened his eyes impatiently. This is bad. I actually fell asleep during my shift. He stood up abruptly and turned to look at his colleague. Xiao Jing, I was too tired yesterday, so I rested for an hour. You didn't notice anything unusual, did you? He glanced at the time. It was only 6 o'clock a.m., so it wasn't too long. No, I saw you were too tired, so I didn't wake you. Everything was normal last night. Nothing happened. the man referred to as Xiao Jing paused before speaking. Both on-duty personnel had completely fallen asleep, which was a significant dereliction of duty. If the supervisor found out, they would lose this job that paid at least double what ordinary people earned. So the two silently reached a consensus with their eyes. The young officer was not asleep. And nothing had happened last night. That's good. Let's focus on our work. After exchanging glances, both of them immediately lowered their heads to check the video playback. No matter how well they talked, facts were more important. Captain, we have arrived above the largest bottled water facility in the area. Please give your instructions. What is the situation at the factory? After taking a sip of juice sent by Nova, the officer found a comfortable position and slouched in the captain's chair. All the drones have been deployed. Please hold on for a moment. The officer nodded expressionlessly. As soon as the words were spoken, the holographic image displayed the scene. It was the filling workshop of the bottled water facility. Since the workers' shift starts at 8:30, there was not a single person in the workshop at this time. The drones conducted a comprehensive reconnaissance in the workshop, office building, and cleaning area, all of which were empty, just like the filling workshop. It was surprising how automated the facility was. Given the situation, it didn't require many people to operate. The officer smiled and set down the juice cup. Yes, more people are needed for home delivery. So naturally, fewer people in the workshop is better to save labor. After all, cost saving is the most important. Captain, the drones have accessed the surveillance system, which is now fully operational. You may proceed. The officer nodded. Allow entry. Continue broadcasting the high-frequency hypnosis signal, and after 2 minutes, we will replace all the water in the storage tanks. After that, we will move on to the next one. Understood. Nova nodded, data flashing in her electronic eye. Above the factory's storage tank, a bionic robot cut open the protective cover. It took out a compression device, aimed at the clean and pure water source. And after 1 minute, the ship shot out a traction beam, causing bricks to fly out and then fall back, restoring the storage tank to its original calm. Let us move on to the next one. 2 spherical fortresses and 1 battleship were completed in just 1 hour. All bottled water companies in Osaka and Tokyo had their water sources replaced. Oh, I'm so tired from running. The officer smiled as he finished the juice sent by Nova and stood up to stretch. Yes, Captain, you've worked hard. Our water source replacement operation has officially started. Tonight, I will replace the water sources of all bottled water facilities in the area. You can go back and rest now. Leave the rest to me. Nova waved, and the bionic robot came forward to refill the officer's juice. The officer took another big sip. He had recently developed a liking for orange juice and could never get enough, which was the main reason Nova kept refilling it. Serving here is worth the effort. No matter how tiring it gets. It's almost done here, so you keep following up, and I'll take a trip to the neighboring region. They're quite close, right? Such good things shouldn't be missed by them. The officer finished the remaining juice in 1 gulp, set down the cup, and walked out of the command bridge. As Dongfang arrived at the launch and landing bay, the second spherical battle fortress was already waiting nearby. After he boarded a small shuttle, the spherical battle fortress vanished above the foreign country. 20 minutes later, Dongfang reached the skies above Lake Superior. At that time, in the flag-waving nation, it was 6:20 p.m., and many foreigners were frolicking on the beach in revealing swimsuits. Dongfang even saw the thick sweat hair on those pale, plump bodies through high-definition imagery. Oh, looks like they're having a great time. They must be tired. Maybe they should take a nap before continuing to play. Dongfang chuckled. Mainframe, deploy the drones and activate the high-frequency hypnotic sound. Understood, Master. Not long after the mechanical voice of the mainframe echoed, Dongfang observed the foreigners by the lakeside starting to sway, and then one by one, they collapsed onto the ground. There was even one slender foreigner who fell while relieving himself. Done. Let us get to work. Yes, Master. How do we proceed? Chapter 192. Explosive video. The intelligence of the control computer was far inferior to Nova's, so Dongfang's simple instruction left it perplexed. He realized he had forgotten that it wasn't Nova. However, the lizard people hadn't arrived yet, and the foreigners were living quite leisurely. Dongfang slapped his thigh and looked up at the virtual face in the holographic image, saying, "Send out the bionic robots and move all the collapsed individuals by Lake Superior to a spot farther away on the shore. Then replace the lake water with our compressed water." Received, Master. However, should we eliminate the lizard people you mentioned? No, let them live as they are. We won't interfere. Understood, Master. In reality, there was no need for the bionic robots to do the work, as the fortress's tractor beam transported all the individuals who had fallen asleep by the lake. The mainframe even kindly placed them in reclining chairs, which made Dongfang frown. According to his wishes, those pale individuals could just be tossed aside on the shore as long as they didn't drown. But since the fortress's mainframe had done this, he couldn't be bothered to stop it. Let it be. It was a bargain for these foreigners. After the individuals were moved, the bionic robots landed on the surface of the lake. Their thrusters were activated, allowing them to hover lightly in midair, actually still some distance above the water. Once the single-element compression device in their hands was activated, a blue crystal gradually took shape. Before the crystal could sink to the bottom, the tractor beam from the Star Fortress enveloped it, and with a whoosh, the blue block disappeared through the fortress's hatch. Soon, the air above Lake Superior was filled with whooshing sounds. The lake's surface began to visibly lower and then rise at an even faster speed. Master, the replacement task has been completed. Please issue the next command. The somewhat mechanical voice sounded. Let us head to the bottled water factory. We're going to do what we just did in the foreign country. And don't forget to alter the water quality monitoring data. If they get an alarm, they won't be able to access such good water. Received, my master. After the Star Fortress emitted a blue flame, it vanished above the surface of the lake in the blink of an eye. Lake Superior quickly returned to its original calmness, with a gentle breeze stirring the water, creating ripples that shimmered in the setting sun, reflecting a kaleidoscope of colors. A picturesque scene appeared on the holographic screen in the east. If it weren't for those distracting figures, it would have been a beautiful sight. One of them stirred awake and unsteadily got to his feet. Disrupting the scene in the eyes of the Eastern observer, he cursed and casually turned off the holographic image. In the remaining hour, the Star Fortress took the Eastern observer on a tour of the major cities in the flag-bearing nation, ensuring that every resident in these large cities had access to clean and safe drinking water. Notably, the Eastern observer paid special attention to a luxury mineral water company, ensuring that their water supply would last for a year. Master, all the tasks you assigned have been completed. Shall we return now? The mainframe reported on the task progress again. No, let us go check on Baidang. The Eastern observer shook his head and pointed at a white building he had just released. First, let us get him some water. Baidang arrived at the office earlier than usual today. Since early March, lizard people had been appearing across the flatlands of the flag-bearing nation. They would suddenly emerge wherever there were underground caves, posing a threat to the safety of residents, whether in rural or urban areas. Over the past couple of days, he received a tip-off that the figures were planning to organize a large-scale parade soon, which is why he arrived at the office much earlier than usual. Just as he settled down at his desk, there was a knock at the door. Come in, Baidang said weakly, quickly hiding his beloved flower-shaped phone in the drawer. He silently complained about the need to conceal it, then looked up to find it was Vice President Haggis. Mr. President, you're here. I have important matters to report to you. He hurriedly stepped to Baidang's desk, appearing quite anxious. Seeing it was the Vice President, Baidang took out his flower-shaped phone again. While tapping the screen, he kept his head down and asked, is it about the parade? Ah, you already know. It South said that this parade is going to be quite grand. It definitely warrants attention, Haggis said as he sat down on the chair, a worried expression on his face. If something like last time happens again, it wouldn't be good. How could that be? I don't even like golf. They wouldn't do something so outrageous. Baidang replied, then added, you know, this flower-shaped phone is becoming more and more convenient to use. Xiao Nua, play me a song. Okay. Master. A woman with exaggerated features and golden hair began to dance on the screen, and a pleasant song filled the large office. Indeed, our reputation isn't that tarnished yet, but the lizard people incident has cost us some public support. Should we perhaps call in some soldiers? Hagoth flipped her hair and shifted to a more provocative sitting posture. The elderly leader looked up, glancing at this charismatic black woman who, despite being past 50, still exuded allure. Well, my back is a bit sore. Could you give me another massage? No problem. Hagoth stood up and walked behind the old man, applying her skilled massage techniques, alternating between his head and back. Meanwhile, in the spaceship's bridge, Dongfang sat in his chair, eyes wide open. These two are having quite a good time. Master, by the lifespan standards of the inhabitants of Blue Star, neither of them is young. Such intense activities significantly increase the risk of cerebral or cardiac incidents. Should we issue a reminder to your acquaintance? The virtual image of the master brain appeared on the large screen, wearing a puzzled expression. What do you know? He's no acquaintance of mine. Record all these inappropriate scenes. That old dog is flaunting his lover in front of me, a single person. I must teach him a lesson. I'll post it on a social platform. Understood, master, but the network in a certain country does not permit such videos. Shall I infiltrate their servers? Absolutely not. We firmly refuse to engage in illegal activities. Just use a platform from a nation with fewer restrictions to post it. Dongfang chuckled. Very well, master. What would you like me to do next? Chapter 193, Change of Plans. Let them sleep for a while first. We'll get them some water. Acknowledged, master. Deploying unmanned aerial vehicles immediately to take over the surveillance system of a certain official residence. Replace all bottled water. Mission confirmed, currently in progress. Completion rate, 1. UAVs have been dispatched. Monitoring system takeover in 5 seconds. By the windows of the official residence, 5 thumb-sized drones swiftly passed by. Of course, if anyone happened to be looking out the window, they wouldn't notice anything unusual. Despite their small size, these drones are equipped with optical stealth systems, truly embodying the saying small but complete. arrived at the surveillance camera, initiating connection. The master brain of the Star Fortress, unlike Nova, proactively reports mission progress instead of only updating at critical points. The holographic screen in front of Dongfang displays real-time footage from the scene. One of the 5 drones landed on the casing of a surveillance camera, while the remaining 4 hovered mid-air, each projecting a blue beam from their fronts. The beams intertwined to form a small light shield enveloping the monitor. The drone on the casing then emitted a red laser. A wisp of white smoke appeared as the data cable of the monitor was slightly breached. After retracting the laser, a tiny probe extended from the top of the drone and inserted into the small opening. In the security control center of the White Palace, Borun gestured with his hand, saying, "Sir, there is an abnormal shaking detected in the monitor located at the southwest corner of the office building. Check the surveillance footage from the past hour and send someone to investigate," replied team leader Alex as he climbed in front of the screen and took a glance. Raising his eyebrows, he said, "Understood." Borun immediately picked up the communicator and spoke, calling the security team. "There is abnormal shaking in the surveillance on the exterior facade of the southwest corner building. Please send personnel to investigate." "Received. A team of 3 will be dispatched immediately," came a deep male voice from the other end, responding briefly before the call ended. "Master, I am infiltrating the security system. It will take approximately 10 seconds. "Why does it take so long?" Dongfang was surprised, as this was not a normal situation. "I am quite different from the mainframe Nova. To complete all controls quietly, my speed will be slightly slower. After all, this is an operating system developed by the locals themselves. I must also adhere to the rules." "All right." Just as the two were conversing, 3 burly men appeared on the holographic screen. They wore white earpieces and were uniformly dressed in black suits, sporting black sunglasses. Their waists bulged, clearly indicating they were armed. They formed a triangular formation, with the leader being a strong black man whose robust body stretched the black suit tightly, as if he were bound. "How stingy can they be? They didn't even provide fitted clothes for their own security team," Dongfang remarked. The main control computer then reported again, "Infiltration completed. The security system is now under surveillance. Let's begin." "Understood, Master." The 3 men walked directly beneath the monitor, and then one of the thinner white men loosened the button of his suit, preparing to climb up for a closer look. The 4 drones that had been hovering above the camera then resumed their flight and hovered over the 3 men. One drone remained in place without any change. "Oh, suddenly feeling so sleepy," murmured the white man who was about to climb the ladder, as he lifted his leg to step onto the first rung. "What did you say?" "I feel sleepy too," the leading black man started to respond. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed as the 3 men fell asleep instantly, with even snoring sounds emerging. "Done." Dongfang chuckled. "I didn't expect that we unknowingly lured them out. Bring those 3 back and release the bionic robots, transforming into 3 human forms to enter the interior." "Yes." 3 beams of attraction shot out from the fortress, lifting the 3 men into the air. As the 3 robots descended, and once the men vanished at the hatch, 3 more men in black appeared on the ground. The slightly thinner white man quickly climbed to the top of the ladder. "Report, the camera shows no abnormalities. Everything is functioning normally. Monitoring room received, you may withdraw." After a white individual pressed a button on the headset, they quickly climbed down. "Gather up." The leading individual, who was of African descent, gently folded the ladder, and the 3 returned to the room. The holographic image in front of the Eastern observer transformed into the perspective of one of them. "You're back, Sith. Any discoveries?" There were many people in the room, at least around 30. They were all large, muscular men, and a white man sitting on the sofa closest to the door asked. He was skillfully disassembling a device in his hands, turning it from a hole into parts, and then back into a hole again. "Yes, nothing unusual." The 3 dispersed and found seats. The leading individual opened his mouth, emitting an inaudible sound wave. His colleagues watched his mouth widen, finding it amusing, and patted him on the shoulder. "Were you too tired last night?" That yawn was at least 10 meters long. Haha. Yawns echoed throughout the room. Within 10 seconds, all the large men were asleep. At that moment, the door to the room was pushed open again. 27 individuals in black entered, and upon closer inspection, one could find a person among the sleeping ones who looked exactly like them. They made no noise and placed a device on each of the 27 sleeping individuals. The room was left with only 30 people. "Master, we are now entering the second phase. Replace all water sources. Task progress, 70. Speed it up. I still need to return to launch the rocket." "Understood, Master." The 30 individuals got up, picked up something from the ground, and then exited. As they walked towards the catering area, they simultaneously lowered their raised hands, while the 27 individuals were taken to the guard chamber in the fortress. They then quickened their pace and soon entered an empty warehouse. One by one, barrels of water disappeared and reappeared, all water sources having been replaced with the purified water prepared by the East. "Master, the task objective has been achieved. Completion rate, 100. But why did you send so many bionic robots? You wouldn't understand. These bionic robots are meant to take root here. There's no need to retrieve them. Let them experience life under the banner of the presidency. Understood, Master. Chapter 194. The explosive network of the Banner Nation in the office of the White Palace. Hagos adjusted her outfit and, in high heels, sat down across from the president. Mr. President, I didn't expect you to be in such good health. She flirtatiously tossed her hair and picked up a cup of water from the table to quench her thirst. After some exercise, the president also felt quite thirsty. So he picked up a cup from the table. There's no water. Just as he reached for the kettle to fill his cup, he discovered it was empty. The cleaning staff must have taken all the water while tidying up, he thought, pressing the call button on the table. Your Excellency, is there anything I can assist you with? Please bring some water, as I have run out in my office. All right. While discussing the parade with the other party, 2 staff members quietly entered with mineral water, placed it down, and then exited silently. Once the 2 left, the other party immediately stood up from the chair. He filled a large cup with water and gulped it down. He smacked his lips, feeling a bit energetic, wondering why the water tasted so good. You should try it too. He poured another cup of water and handed it to the other person sitting in the chair. The taste is indeed pleasant. Let's talk about the parade. After seeing the 2 finish the purified water smoothly, the holographic image was turned off. Let us go back. All right, Master. The rear of the spherical fortress shot out a beam of light, which flashed to the horizon and then vanished without a trace. Master, do you think this editing is a bit too revealing? How could it be? We must let everyone recognize the 2 at a glance. It has to be edited this way. All right, the editing is complete. Should we release it now? Don't rush. Let me take another look. The individual leaned over the holographic screen, carefully watching it again, and then blushed as he said, it can be released. Since the release of the videos on the Fortress and the Holy War, international netizens have had 2 major surprises, and they were substantial ones, leading to a group of avid foreign netizens eagerly waiting for new content daily. They would habitually check major video sites, searching to see if there were any new videos released. One such netizen was Felix, and he was one of the most enthusiastic. Every day, after turning on his computer, he would unconsciously check the sites. With a hint of hope, he would quickly browse through the trending topics, and if there was nothing of interest, he would reluctantly close his computer and start his normal workday. One day, as he began his work, he skillfully opened his computer and went to YouTube, scanning the rankings as usual. After finding no topics of interest, he moved the mouse to close the page. Suddenly, a red title caught his eye, A Day with the Other Party. His heart raced, feeling he had finally found what he had been waiting for. Instead of rushing to click on the video, he looked at the publisher. Sure enough, it was the same person as in the previous 2 releases. There was no information or profile picture, but the video had been uploaded. Finally, I found you. His heart raced with excitement. And without caring if his supervisor was behind him, he immediately clicked on the video. Come give me a massage. His supervisor behind him was stunned. And because the speakers were on, everyone in the office gathered around. They kept making clicking sounds with their mouths, and some even made incomprehensible noises. It was explosive. Really explosive. Is this the kind of vibe that our free and powerful leaders enjoy? Haha, I guess so. Not to mention, the old man and old lady sure have their tricks. Yes, today was quite an eye-opener. The supervisor couldn't take it anymore. He was seriously enjoying the blockbuster. Everyone, quiet down. I can't hear what the vice president is saying. Laughter erupted in the office. Even the boss, who was hiding in his office, was drawn out. When he stepped out and saw a crowd gathered around Felix's computer, his anger flared up. Damn it. Am I paying you to watch videos and have fun? Get back to work. Is my money just blowing in the wind? The office fell silent immediately. Everyone lowered their heads and returned to their seats. Felix hurriedly tried to turn off the speakers. Unfortunately, he was a bit slow. The sound of haggis was still coming through. Felix, get to my office. Yes, boss. The outcome was predictable. After a barrage of insults from the boss, he was sent back to his workstation. However, Felix was in a good mood, after all. He had just witnessed a huge scoop, making his whole day bright. At 5 p.m., when it was time to get off work, Felix didn't wait a second. He immediately got up, grabbed his backpack, and rushed downstairs to drive home. This time, no one stopped him. He carefully watched the video frame by frame. With years of experience in viewing videos, he could tell that this one was authentic, with good continuity and clarity that could even reach 4K level. Fuck. The biggest scoop of the century, even more explosive than the one from Derekberg. He couldn't help but stand up and shout, yes, I need to repost this immediately and let the so-called citizens see what they have elected. He had been fed up with the government for a long time. Although this city was the capital and had not been attacked by the lizard people, he still couldn't stand this terrible country, which painted a facade of peace while completely disregarding human rights. Without hesitation, he downloaded the entire video, edited out the most exciting clips, added the hottest background music online, and posted it on his short video account. Right after he published it, he quickly finished writing a blog post and published it on his social media account. While he was editing a post on Twitter, his computer was already ringing with notifications. Due to the speed, the notifications sounded like a single ding followed by another. Damn it, the neighbors are going to come knock on my door again, he complained, reaching to turn off the speakers. He then opened the YouTube backend, seeing 198, 601 likes, and 162 comments. Wow, I'm going to go viral. Chapter 195, Launch in Progress. Was this the result of just half an hour? Felix muttered a few words before returning to Twitter to edit the unfinished post. About 10 kilometers away, a large crowd was gathering at a luxurious apartment. Among them were well-dressed social elites in suits and luxury watches, factory workers in denim, and even women in revealing clothing. It was a mixed crowd, with people from all walks of life sitting in a neat circle. They were intently listening to a middle-aged man in the center delivering a speech. Their eyes followed his gesturing hands. We don't need a president like this. He only cares about himself and strictly limits media reports on the real situation. I am a journalist, and I have been on the front lines covering the struggle against the reptilians for 5 days. I know all the truths. What the hell is from victory to victory? Are they trying to fool the ignorant? Every day, I see a lot of injuries. These filthy politicians. They don't even give us the basic right to know. All my articles have been rejected by that fat supervisor. But I can't stay silent. I need to let more people know the truth. As his voice grew louder, he became increasingly agitated, even tearing open the buttons of his shirt. He waved his arms vigorously and shouted, "We cannot be silent. Yes, we cannot stay silent." The people sitting around him seemed to be inspired as they stood up together, waving their arms and shouting. After shouting for a full 30 seconds, he raised his hand and said, "Fellow like-minded friends, after we finish this gathering, please unite with your unions, rally your families, relatives, friends, colleagues, and even your bosses, and ask them to join us. Tomorrow morning, we will gather at the square outside the White House for a march." After various responses rang out, the man in the center spoke again, "Today's gathering ends here. See you all tomorrow. See you tomorrow." Meanwhile, as Felix watched the video, Dongfang had returned to the launch base located in the desert. He changed into his iconic Zhongshan suit and walked into the staff cafeteria amidst the greetings of countless people. The clock at the entrance displayed the time, 9:45. "Good morning, Chairman." Hu Yang, dressed in sportswear, approached him. She had been informed by colleagues about the big boss's movements, so after finishing her breakfast quickly, she walked to the cafeteria door. "Have you eaten?" Dongfang nodded and casually asked the most commonly used greeting among his compatriots. "Yes, I have." "You go sit down for a while. I'll get you something to eat. What would you like?" She looked at Dongfang with a curious expression. "This girl looks pretty cute when she stares like that. Maybe I do like sporty girls?" Dongfang thought to himself, but he kept talking. "Don't worry about me. I can manage on my own." Have all the preparations for the launch been completed? Without waiting for Hu Yang, he walked straight to the food pickup area. 5 fried dough sticks, a bowl of tofu, a bowl of porridge, 2 tea eggs, and a steamer of buns. Hu Yang hurried a few steps to catch up with Dongfang, and then she heard the breakfast order from the boss. Wow, I didn't expect the boss to be so slim, yet able to eat so much. Everything was ready, and the launch window was precisely at 10:30 this morning. "Mister, you said they would proceed with the launch as planned. I just ran into him when I entered. He should already be at the launch site." "That's good. You go ahead and take care of your tasks. By the way, you should head to the launch site later to coordinate the work among the departments." The lady distributing the meals seemed to know Dongfang's habits, skillfully retrieving a basket from under the table and neatly placing his breakfast inside. No wonder he didn't need to help. It turns out everything was prepared in advance. Hu Yang was efficient, and since the boss said no help was needed, plus there was a food basket available, she quickly said goodbye to Dongfang and headed straight to the command center at the launch site. Dongfang, meanwhile, carried his food basket back to the private room to enjoy a hearty breakfast. At 10:20 a.m., the sun was already high in the sky, with no wind. The temperature rose rapidly. Sitting in the commuter vehicle, Dongfang felt a bit warm and shaded his eyes to look at the sky. The weather was excellent today, with clear skies that resembled a deep blue ocean, uplifting one's spirits. His gaze shifted downward to the launch site, where a huge rocket stood tall, reaching for the sky. And the sunlight illuminated the logo of the Leisure DH-01 prominently. "The weather is great, and the rocket looks good." Dongfang clapped his hands and laughed. "Indeed, Captain. Today's weather conditions are extremely suitable for the rocket launch. It seems today's launch will go smoothly. Nova, I'll take your good wishes." As Dongfang engaged in trivial conversation with Nova, he arrived at the control center of the launch site. "Chairman, you finally made it. Hu Yang had been waiting downstairs for a while. Everything is ready. Why come so early? Let's head up. I told you not to wait. As long as you all do your jobs well, I'm not that particular." Dongfang got off the commuter vehicle and was the first to enter the building. "You are my benefactor. I wouldn't keep you waiting." Hu Yang followed closely behind. The command platform was located at the top of the control center. Unlike the command platform at Blue Star, it had a floor-to-ceiling glass window at the front, allowing a clear view of the launch pad and rocket. The data screens were placed on either side of the glass. Chairman, there's only 10 minutes left. Can we start the live broadcast? As soon as Dongfang entered the command platform, Yu Xingrui strode over to him. Let's begin. Okay. After receiving the approval from the big boss, he turned and walked back to his position. The open space in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass was similar to a podium in a lecture hall, with tiered seating in front of Yu Xingrui. However, each person had a computer placed in front of them. After Hu Yang led Dongfang to the best viewing spot at the top, she quickly walked to Yu Xingrui's side. She took the microphone that was handed to her, cleared her throat, and said, I am ready. Several staff members with cameras immediately pointed their lenses at her. Good morning to all the audience on Blue Star. I am Hu Yang, the host of this live broadcast. Behind me is the latest large thrust launch vehicle developed by the company, the Lishi DH-01. After glancing at her watch, she continued, it is currently 10:28 in the capital city. In 2 minutes, you will witness the spectacular scene of it piercing through the sky and soaring into the clouds. The staff is currently conducting the final checks, and during this remaining time, I will interview the head of the aerospace subsidiary, General Yu Xingrui. Seeing the photographers with their long lenses, Dongfang immediately took out his phone and opened the live stream created by the company. This was his favorite. Persone, after waiting for a long time. We finally reached today. Our country finally has it. Onlookers, what's the big deal? Can you finish your sentence? Commenter, don't be annoying like a eunuch. Commenter B, is there any question? It's a private rocket company. This is not a state team. Just look at the rocket's data. Commenter C, how do you read the data? I'm a girl, I don't understand. Commenter D, don't worry about that. Just look at this line. The rocket engine thrust is 611 tons. Let me put it this way, the foreign satellite No. 5 claimed to be the largest launch vehicle on Blue Star, and its thrust was only 682 tons. Think about it. A private company can make such a rocket. Isn't that impressive? Commenter E, look at the rocket's appearance and logo. It's still the familiar formula and taste. The company is amazing. Commenter F, amazing. Commenter G, amazing. Pay attention to the formation at the back. Dongfang was amused by this group of lovely netizens, unable to close his mouth. Nova, look at the influence of our company. That was just now. Yes, your greatness is as wise as ever. Nova showed a helpless expression and smiled awkwardly. Dear viewers in the live stream, I am the head of the aerospace subsidiary of the company, as Ms. Hu Yang has just introduced. Let's cut to the chase. I will briefly introduce our first developed launch vehicle, Lishi, in 2 minutes. The details have been mentioned earlier, so I won't repeat them here. All right, our time is up. It's better to see it in person. Let's welcome our main character today, the Lishi. The chat room erupted in excitement once again. The original emperor declared, rocket launch today, and tomorrow we'll shoot for the sun. The flying Oliki responded, the sun. My ultimate goal. Oliki. Jia Yi Bing Ding chimed in, Oliki. The Easterners couldn't help but laugh. Every time during the live stream, the powerful and unmatched netizens could unexpectedly lead the conversation off track. No need to pay attention anymore. He put away his phone and turned his gaze towards Yu Xingrui. Reports from various departments were underway. Fuel injection is normal. All injection work is complete and ready for use. Control system is normal. Communication system is normal. Launch pad is functioning perfectly. Mr. Yu, all departments are ready and can launch at any time. An employee sitting at the front stood up, his face flushed with excitement and a huge smile on his lips, clearly showing his good mood. After Yu Xingrui waved at him, he lowered his head to check his concept stock. We can launch. Understood. Departments in position. Ignition in 10 seconds. After Yu Xingrui waved again, he immediately sat back down. 3, 2, 1, ignition. The scene in the live stream changed instantly, with the massive engine nozzle at the bottom of the rocket becoming the absolute focus. A huge amount of white smoke rose up, and a spark of flame emerged from within. As we are viewing footage from surveillance cameras, there may be some shaking and temporary blackouts, so we ask for your understanding. Hu Yang's pleasant voice announced. The camera zoomed out, revealing the entire rocket as the launch platform retracted, slowly lifting off the ground and ascending into the air. In the live stream, someone asked, why is its flame orange with blue? Can someone explain why we often see orange-red? In response, Inuzuka Naishin remarked, let me explain, brother. It's because it uses a mixture of liquid oxygen and kerosene as fuel. Oxygen is a very clean fuel, so with aviation kerosene and liquid oxygen supporting it, it burns fully, resulting in a blue flame column. Do you understand now? The expert truly is an expert. Please enlighten me. Inuzuka Naishin replied, I'm something you'll never have. Baba, stop arguing, watch the rocket. At this point, the rocket had already flown into the air, with more blue flames appearing. Current flight speed, 4 kilometers per second. Attitude normal, booster preparing to shut down. 3, 2, 1, stop completed. Booster separation, first stage rocket engine ignited, Attitude normal, current flight speed, 51 kilometers per second. The over 50-meter-long rocket, after detaching from the booster, shot upwards like a giant sword engulfed in flames, racing towards the sky. Due to its high speed, it had already broken the sound barrier, leaving a massive white wake in its flight, drawing a straight line across the sky. Report. First stage booster fuel exhausted. Preparing to stop and detach. Stopping normal, separation completed. Second stage booster ignition normal, running smoothly. The rocket is flying at a speed of 6 kilometers per second and is in the process of accelerating. After 2 minutes, it will reach the planned speed of 79 kilometers per second and enter low Earth orbit. The communication signals are normal, and the attitude control is functioning properly. The people in the hall seem to be very busy, except for one individual who is leisurely watching the big screen. Captain, would you like a glass of orange juice? Of course. The individual is inspired by the passionate work of their colleagues, smacking their lips and pulling out their phone again. Hey, didn't they say the surveillance cameras would shake? Why does this feel like a 4K high-definition image? Yeah, I've seen quite a few rocket launches. Why is there no blurry feeling? I think of interstellar colonization era. Get your tongue straightened out before talking. If it's not there, it's not there. Do you think you're from a certain region? Stewed chicken, oh yes. Hey, did you perform a sword-swallowing act yesterday? What era is this? You must speak standard Mandarin to me. What did you just say? Quickly explain it to me. Stewed chicken needs mushrooms. Otherwise, the taste is a bit off. By the way, I sell mushrooms. Does anyone want to buy some? Damn it, caught an advertising dog. Management quickly muted him. Banned for over 100 years. Enough nonsense, look. The rocket has already entered low Earth orbit. Damn, it's my lack of culture. I thought we lived on a beautiful blue planet. I'm moved to tears. 2 minutes indeed pass quickly. Amidst the chatter and banter, the rocket has already left the blue planet. The second stage rocket has long since detached and is now slowly shedding the fairing, revealing a flag emblazoned with the logo of the Earth. Wow, it's so beautiful. Yes, our mother planet, the blue planet, has always been this beautiful. Chapter 197. Assumptions. The fairing has completed its separation, and the satellite is deploying its solar panels. Report. Deployment complete. Satellite power is normal. They attempt to establish the first connection and test communications. The individual calmly nods and speaks. The long march is complete. We're not missing this little tremor. They are able to suppress their excitement and calmly assign tasks. It's still the same employee from earlier. They pull out 2 communication devices with long antennas. Fingers trembling, they press a series of numbers on one of the devices. Ah, the 5th ring. You have one more than the 4th. A familiar song plays from the other communication device. Who set this bizarre ringtone? Such peculiar taste at such an important moment. Unable to hold back a comment, the individual smiles, showing no signs of anger. The laughter erupts from over 50 people in the hall. The young man stands up with a flushed face, facing the back, and says, "What are you laughing at? I'm just trying to ease the tense atmosphere. Stop chattering. I need to take this call." Hu Yang suppressed a smile, quickly walked a couple of steps to the young man wearing thick glasses, and brought the microphone to his mouth. This was her job. Even if she wanted to laugh, she would first complete her task. The young employee, with his slightly trembling hands, tapped the screen of the communicator. At that moment, the hall was silent. Everyone looked at him eagerly, waiting for the final result. "Hello, hello," the young man said softly into the microphone. Immediately, echoes filled the hall. He looked up, his eyes red, tears welling in his pupils. He choked up a bit. "We succeeded." All the staff jumped up from their seats, cheering, hugging each other, and patting one another on the shoulders. Some even formed couples because of this event, but that's a story for another time. Returning to the control center, which seemed on the verge of bursting through the roof. The countless hours of hard work had led to today's success. Some even recalled the hardships they faced during their more than 20 years of education. All the effort and dedication had finally paid off, and their emotional outburst was completely understandable. Hu Yang even felt a surge of impulse to join in. This success had his contribution, and he had given more than anyone else. "Chairman, we did it. We really did it. I can hardly believe it. Such perfect results in such a short time. Old you, stay calm. We will experience scenes like this often in the future." Dongfang patted the excited shoulder of his colleague, who was filled with joy and excitement. "I understand." Yu Xingrui mechanically nodded, thinking to himself how generous his boss was, far beyond what ordinary people could achieve. "All right, I'll head back now. Remember to tell the finance department to give every employee a bonus of 5 times their salary." After saying this, Dongfang withdrew his arm and, without looking back, left the office with 2 bodyguards. Just as he was about to exit the building, he heard louder cheers. He vaguely caught that they seemed to be shouting, "Long live the boss." Dongfang shook his head. These people were really full of energy. Dear viewers in the live stream, after 2 hours of hard work, the rocket launch experiment has been successfully completed. Thank you for watching. Today's broadcast will conclude here. We look forward to seeing you again. After finishing her task, Hu Yang immediately put down the microphone and leaped into the crowd, jumping and shouting, turning the control center into a sea of joy. Speaking of which, this host girl isn't bad at all. The more you look, the more appealing she becomes. I wonder if she's single, seeking contact information. Same here. I earnestly request the host to share her social media account. I must follow. If she needs a boyfriend. I'm a 27-year-old single guy, willing to offer everything. Get lost. The golden saint who has been single for 30 years hasn't even spoken yet. Why are you so anxious? In the already blacked out live stream room, the audience was reluctant to leave, immersing themselves in a sea of joy. Dongfang did not take a vehicle, but strolled back to his office leisurely. He was very happy because his significant plan had finally taken a solid step forward. As long as he continued to follow the established procedures for research and development, he believed he could advance further soon. However, the thought of research and development furrowed his brow again. The current researchers were indeed somewhat ineffective. Their thinking was rigid, and they had completely learned the scientific and technological system of a certain blue planet. Therefore, teaching them knowledge that far exceeded that of the blue planet was a considerable challenge. Age was one factor, but the ability to accept new concepts was the most important. Completely overturning their understanding seemed very difficult. What if I start a university? Suddenly, a thought popped into Dongfang's mind. Virtual reality learning software. Once his mind opened up, his ideas became wildly imaginative. A virtual reality university? No need to build a campus. As long as there are qualifications, enrollment could start immediately to cultivate the needed talents? No. Dongfang quickly dismissed this idea. High school graduates were actually a bit late. Their worldviews were mostly established. So I need to start from kindergarten. But can I just let these little kids learn in a virtual reality system? No way. I still have to build a kindergarten. A kindergarten under the Earth Ring Group, starting with the children of employees. Let them form an indissoluble bond with the company. Nova, what do you think of my idea? Unable to contain himself, Dongfang shared his thoughts with it. Captain, you are truly a genius. It ensures a source of students and further deepens the connection between employees and the company. Once you implement this, I believe no employee will leave the company, right? Why didn't Team My Hometown think of this back then? Nova seemed to realize it had let something slip and quickly changed the subject. In any case, you are an incredible genius. Dongfang laughed heartily. I'm not a genius. It's something said by a great person from our nation. Education must start from a young age. I've merely learned a bit from the great man. Chapter 198 Departure. Thanks to Bai Qiushi who loves to eat stewed chicken and Su Kuan who loves bitter melon buns. At 8 p.m., after finishing dinner, Dongfang did not return to the office but turned back to his small villa. On the way, he stopped for a while to feed the increasingly familiar little camel. Although it still tried to kiss Dongfang with its big mouth, but failed. But the feelings have only grown stronger, and because of the presence of the little camel, the residents of the town even stop in their tracks when passing by the space base, hoping to catch a glimpse of this beloved pet and receive its blessings for smooth sailing and good fortune in the days ahead. Having eaten too much, Dongfang walked a bit slowly, as people were constantly heading to the office along the way. He nodded at everyone he passed, further slowing his pace. He considered it a post-meal stroll, and it wasn't until 10 minutes later that he finally set foot on the steps of the villa. Nova, has that reporter gathered everyone? As soon as he entered, Dongfang immediately called out to Nova. Captain, your timing is perfect. They have already gathered at the end of Pennsylvania Avenue. That reporter is currently giving his speech. Once Nova finished speaking, the live footage appeared before Dongfang's eyes. Dear friends, good morning, everyone. Today we gather here for a common purpose, and I have some words that I must share. First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Alexander. I am a journalist working for a broadcasting company. Recently, under my supervisor's arrangement, I went to the front line where we are fighting against the lizard people. My task is to report on the situation. At that moment, he was standing on a makeshift platform built from several trash cans, holding a megaphone. Surrounding him was a sea of people, some holding banners, others with posters, and those with fewer resources had written messages on large sheets of paper. Some had even removed their shirts, writing messages on their backs. Dongfang counted and saw that most of the signs said "We need the truth," mixed in with slogans like "No more deception of the great flag citizens," "No more silence," "No war," "Peace." Do you know what I have seen? Alexander exclaimed, waving his arms excitedly, his face flushed, tears welling in his eyes. Brutality, bloodshed, inhumanity, and the most frequent word is death. I know that among those who came today, many have sons, daughters, loved ones, and brothers fighting in that front line, which has turned into a meat grinder. Perhaps soon someone will receive bad news, maybe someone won't. But who knows what tomorrow holds? The lizard people will not retreat underground. Perhaps tomorrow a notice will arrive at your home. In the crowd, some began to wipe their eyes, large tears streaming down their faces. Do not be sad. Do not cry, for that does no good. We must raise our voices. We should let our thoughts be known to the so-called president and vice president. Let the truth be known to more people. And now, with the lizard people rampaging, you and I might become food for these beasts tomorrow. So I urge everyone to lend a little strength, to let the masses and citizens take action from now on. To protect themselves, their families, and our homeland. Yes, we must organize ourselves. Protect our home. Protect our home. We demand the right to know and human rights. The crowd beneath the temporary podium shouted in unison, waving their signs, their voices growing louder. They even attracted the attention of nearby officers. This guy really has a strong ability to incite. Dongfang chuckled. Yes, he indeed has this talent. I just checked his background. Alexander, male, 30 years old. A graduate of a prestigious university in a certain country, University of California, Berkeley. Major, communication. He works for. Well, you just heard it. Nova gathered all the information and presented it to Dongfang. Such an emotional speech. If he didn't have some foundation, he really couldn't pull it off. By the way, are the bionic robots in place? Of course, they have all blended into the crowd as per your arrangement. Look, their positions. Nova switched back to the previous footage. Among the excited crowd, 20 red dots appeared. There were individuals with both dark and light skin, dressed differently, workers, social elites, and even a large man wearing a pirate hat with a full beard. Nova, your skills have improved. You found some good actors. Dongfang rarely complimented. It's all thanks to your guidance that I could grow so fast. This isn't a normal smart AI, but an artificial intelligence with a human soul that flatters. Forget it, let's watch the show. As you wish, Captain. The main subject of this footage is a police officer of color, whose task is to patrol Pennsylvania Avenue. This morning, as soon as he started his shift, he noticed a crowd gathering. Years of experience told him that something was about to happen. So, he stopped his patrol car and stood at the edge of the crowd. He heard Alexander's speech and the crowd's rising emotions. Realizing that something wasn't right, Nikolegna pressed the radio on his shoulder. Calling headquarters, calling headquarters. Officer 21134 calling headquarters. 21134, go ahead. A cold female voice came through the radio. There are a large number of people gathered on Pennsylvania Avenue. They are planning a march, so you know, I need backup. A lot of backup, roughly estimating. There are over 2,000 people. Please respond quickly. Hearing the cold woman's voice, the officer broke out in a sweat. She is known for being sharp-tongued and heartless. Understood. I will report it immediately according to procedure. Without waiting for Nicole to speak, she ended the call. Damn, that old woman. I hope she never finds a boyfriend in her life. A colleague nearby patted his shoulder. Nicole, don't worry. As long as we ignore them, we can just watch from the side. After all, there's nothing we can do anyway. Just as the two were talking, Alexander's voice rang out once more. Everyone, please be quiet. Let's line up and head to the entrance of the government building together. We must exercise restraint. We can't behave shamelessly like those individuals inside, filming such videos. We are civilized people, and we should play the game in a civilized manner. Is everyone clear? Understand? No dawdling. Let's go. Alexander nodded and jumped down from the trash can. Let us move out. Your comment wasn't quite right. You should say that we can't wait to share our thoughts with those individuals. That way, it feels more immersive and people can naturally connect with your emotions. Understood. I'll stick to your script next time. A person and a machine were having a lively discussion about the plot. Acknowledging one's mistakes and being able to improve is invaluable. After taking a sip of the orange juice offered by the robotic assistant, Dongfang patted his thigh and began singing Peking opera, thinking back to when my team was first established. Let us not focus on that joker. Let's return to Pennsylvania Avenue outside the government building. Alexander took a poster from a companion's hand. It read, "Demand the right to know, demand human rights. No more silence." He quickly walked a few steps to the front of the crowd and pulled a headband from his pocket, putting it on his head. A pose hiding the truth. "We need the right to know," he shouted, raising his arm high. At that moment, a louder voice echoed his words, almost deafening. Who is that? I haven't seen him at the gathering before, but his voice is quite powerful. Next time something like this happens, we definitely need to bring him along. After this, I should ask for his contact information. As he pondered, he moved forward slowly. 1,000 people shouting the same slogan is a spectacular sight, even on a bustling street. Their loud chants would not be drowned out. Passers-by became curious, stopping those in the parade to inquire about what was happening. Upon learning the truth, they were filled with righteous indignation. They knew about the chaos but were unaware of the severity of the situation, which led them to join in. The number of marchers quickly rose from 2,000 to 5,000, then 7,000, and even over 10,000. Some individuals took off their shirts and wrote slogans with markers on their t-shirts. At this point, alarms began to sound, and over 100 police cars drove in from the end of Pennsylvania Avenue, quickly parking outside the government building. Various officers got out of the cars, setting up barricades and establishing a perimeter. The sound of sirens intermingled with the chants, creating a scene that was both lively and chaotic. These outsiders sure know how to have fun. They've even skipped work to join in. The East exclaimed that this was far from the image of the nation he had in mind. If such a thing were to happen in that country, there would be spectators and heated discussions, but if they wanted everyone to join in, that would be a different story. They prided themselves on being a free nation. So the people believed they were freedom fighters, ready to bravely step up in similar situations to showcase themselves. Nova nodded in agreement. The crowd surged forward like a tide, their expressions serious and eyes filled with sincerity. Just as Nova had said, they viewed themselves as warriors fighting for freedom. President, it's bad. They have really started large-scale protests. The door to the office swung open, and a woman rushed in, out of breath. Hargis, you're already the vice president. Don't be so alarmed. Didn't we know this would happen? We just need to bring in more officers to maintain order, and after a while, they will disperse once they tire out. The president put down his flower-patterned phone and looked up at his panting deputy. You don't understand. There are too many people. More and more are joining in. The number has exceeded 20,000. It's a sea of people. I'm afraid something might happen. If something like what happened to that former president occurs. Calm down. General Arthur's army will be here soon. Unarmed as they are, how can they withstand our iron tide? Come give me a massage. I'm exhausted. By the way, I almost forgot. What's happening with the video online? Did you set up a camera in the office and release it online? You old fool. Don't think you can get me to massage you again. Of course not. I had the tech department analyze it. They said it must be artificially made. Such high-definition cameras have not even been produced yet. Look at how young I am in that video. That's me from 10 years ago, so no one believes it. Come on, give me a massage. Look for yourself. The president picked up his phone, opened the video, and was about to hand it to Hargis. What are you looking at? I've seen it several times already. Don't say it. I look young, but I suspect it's fake. Sit tight. I'm going to give you that massage. What they didn't know was that the tech department, unable to analyze the footage, had to bluff the president by saying it was fake for their own safety. How else could they explain the recording in the office? Alexander shouted slogans as he moved forward step by step. He paid no attention to the white officers, knowing that as long as order was maintained, they could only watch due to the sheer number of people. At that moment, his pupils contracted as he saw a line of vehicles, camouflaged special units speeding down the avenue. The parade had only moved about 10 meters when they stopped behind the barricades. Countless soldiers jumped out of the armored vehicles, holding transparent riot shields. Then they bypassed the barriers and gathered in the open space ahead, forming a human wall. Alexander hesitated. The deployment of soldiers was not a normal occurrence, so he wanted to stop and assess the situation before moving on. Unfortunately, his thoughts were in vain. He wished to halt, but those behind him were unaware. He wanted to shout, but without a megaphone, his voice barely traveled 20 centimeters. Thus, he was pushed forward by the crowd, continuously moving ahead until he collided with the human wall. The marching group came to a stop, along with their incessant chanting. However, there was one loud brother who continued to shout about freedom and human rights. Please step back. Sir, you are not allowed to advance here, said a soldier holding a shield to Alexander. All right, we won't advance anymore. The president can hear my call anyway. He raised both hands, indicating that he was safe. Freedom. Human rights. The big man continued to shout without pause. Please have your companion stop for a moment. You can send a representative to talk to the reception staff at the White House. Freedom. Human rights. Please make him stop for a while. Freedom. Human rights. Okay. Alexander agreed, turning to pull at the white man. Freedom. Human rights. Hi, buddy. Freedom. Human rights. The soldier was really annoyed by the noise. He stepped forward and pressed his shield against the loud white man. What are you doing pushing me? He finally stopped, glaring at the soldier. You're too loud. You big oaf. The soldier smirked, pushing hard with the shield. It was definitely uncomfortable for the man on the other side, but that was his intention. Who are you calling a big oaf? Say that again, you son of a bitch. The big white man puffed out his chest, pushing the soldier back a step. Such strength, he thought, but his mouth didn't relent. I'm talking about you, big oaf, son of a bitch. Chapter 200, Escalating Conflict Nova. This is quite a show, especially that son of a bitch line. It was particularly clever. Not to mention the soldier. Even I can't hold back. Eastern chuckled. You really know how to teach. Would you like another glass of juice? Yes, please, and some popcorn. I feel like I'm watching a blockbuster. All right, you're the son of a bitch. I'm from the army of the flag country. Screw you. You idiot. They're using you as cannon fodder. And you think you're so tough. You idiot. Your whole family are idiots. The soldier couldn't hold back any longer. He thought he was well-equipped and well-trained. Dealing with an ordinary person should be easy. Maybe in just a few moves, he could take down this seemingly strong idiot, but he still had some concerns. With so many of them, would they come over to help? So he was arguing with the giant while hiding his eyes behind the shield, carefully observing the people in the parade. Alexander appeared anxious, continuously tugging at the big man. Meanwhile, everyone else had stepped back, their eyes showing fear, and some even gloating. The big man kept mumbling, "Don't pull me, it's fine. The soldier felt a surge of joy. No one would come to help him. As long as he acted, the person tugging would definitely be pushed away. While he was pulling on the giant, he kept saying, "We are a peaceful parade. We must avoid conflict. If you keep this up, you'll be asked to leave the group." Hee, leaving would be better. It seemed no one would help him. "Just wait. I'll deal with you." With that thought, the soldier raised his riot shield. He spread his legs apart in a stance, slightly lowering his body and tensing his waist and hips. With a strong push of his right foot, he slammed the shield into the giant's chest. Alexander, who was originally standing to the side of the giant, was trying to observe the soldier opposite them and wanted to advise his straightforward companion. After all, he was considering bringing him along next time. But when he caught sight of the soldier raising the shield to charge, he felt a rush of panic and then froze. As a top student, he had spent most of his life studying. Fighting was something from his childhood. So when he saw the soldier lunging at the giant, he instinctively stepped aside, thinking, "Oh no, this guy is going to get knocked down. If he got hurt, who knows if he would recover in time for the next gathering." So Alexander closed his eyes, unable to watch. Crash. Sure enough, he heard the sound of the shield colliding with the chest, followed by the sound of the soldier falling to the ground. No, he couldn't wait any longer. He had to see if the soldier was hurt. Alexander opened his eyes. Clatter, clatter. Why was the soldier on the ground with the shield thrown aside? The giant seemed completely unharmed. He walked over in surprise and touched the giant's chest. Aside from a mark on the jacket, there was nothing wrong. "Are you okay? What happened when you fell?" The giant scratched his head and chuckled. "Nothing. This kid tried to charge at me, but his strength was so weak that he knocked himself down." Alexander chuckled in agreement. "Is that even possible?" "Of course it's possible. It's clear as day to anyone watching." The soldier raised the shield and took 2 steps back, then forcefully slammed the shield into the giant's chest. The giant's legs parted slightly, one foot slightly retreating. After making a small bowing stance, he pushed his chest forward. The shield hit first, crashing into him. If it were an ordinary person, even if hit by the shield before the soldier exerted force, they would have been pushed back or even knocked down. But who was this giant? He was a bionic robot. With a loud crash, the soldier was sent flying, landing on his back with his shield thrown aside. "Ouch, ouch," he cried, clutching his chest and curling up in pain. This incident had stirred up quite a hornet's nest. The soldiers erupted from their positions, furious that one clumsy giant had struck one of their own, comrades who trained and lived together. They immediately charged forward. As Alexander and the giant were speaking, the soldiers had already rushed in. They pushed Alexander aside and surrounded the giant. One soldier reached out and yanked him from the crowd. The onlookers could no longer see what was happening inside, only hearing continuous cries of distress. Accompanying the cries were sounds of fists hitting flesh. Alexander's heart raced, pounding in sync with the chaos. Others around him felt the same, as the beating seemed excessively brutal. After 2 minutes, the soldiers finally dispersed. The crowd witnessed the giant's miserable state, his face bruised and teeth missing, clothes torn to shreds, and large contusions all over his body. Their only thought was that the soldiers were excessively ruthless. The soldiers returned to formation, glaring at the crowd as if to say, "Dare to move, and you'll be dealt with too." Most people were left in shock, staring blankly, as if paralyzed by fear. However, amidst the crowd, there were exceptions. "You bunch of dogs. Why are you hitting people? How dare you? You're using taxpayer money to beat up taxpayers. Are you beasts? What is the difference between you and monsters? Trash. Scum. Yes. You scum, beasts, garbage." The younger ones in the crowd couldn't hold back any longer. Having less experience with society, they spoke their minds. "You trash. Go turn yourselves in." More young people stepped forward, eyes wide with anger, showing no fear. "Hey, watch your words. Don't get yourself into trouble," shouted the fallen soldier again. "You're the real trash. You're the culprit." The young people didn't back down, retaliating with insults. As the two sides exchanged heated words, more people gathered, quickly surpassing 1,000, matching the number of soldiers. They shouted trash and pushed forward until they collided with the soldiers' shields. The confrontation escalated, verbal insults flying while actions followed suit, kicking shields, shoving, and spitting. They did everything to provoke. Seeing this, the soldiers hesitated to retaliate, as the crowd had swelled to over 2,000, far outnumbering the soldiers present. Chapter 201. Let's go to the White Palace. Suddenly, someone started throwing stones at the shields. The soldier who initiated the attack became the target of everyone's ire. Despite wearing a helmet and protective gear, he couldn't fend off the barrage of stones. As a result, his head was struck, blood trickling down from the corner of his eye, leaving his face in disarray. Duke, the captain of the 364th Squad, was also the on-site commander for this emergency response. Seeing more and more people getting injured made him anxious. He shouted loudly to his team, "You need to restrain yourselves. No more attacks. If you can't hold the line, use tear gas to drive them back." But the defensive line was gradually retreating. "Yes, sir." Alexander was swept along in the crowd. moving forward when suddenly he noticed some black cylindrical objects being thrown from the opposite side. As soon as they hit the ground, they released a large cloud of white smoke. A choking, acrid smell filled the air, making him cough uncontrollably. It's tear gas. Let's fall back a bit. Cough, cough. Let's fall back, he shouted. Unfortunately, the situation was already beyond his control. As the soldiers attacked, they ignited the fiery passions of the young crowd. They rushed to the front of the shields, tearing at the soldiers' gas masks. The chaos escalated once again. Notably, 9 young individuals at the forefront seemed unaffected by the tear gas. One of them leaped over the shield, and before the soldiers could react, he yanked off a gas mask and tossed it into the crowd behind him. One of the individuals who had been coughing the hardest suddenly felt a weight in his hand. In between coughs, he glanced at what he was holding. Was that a gas mask? Without a second thought, he put it on his face. The coughing subsided. At that moment, he finally had the energy to look up at the soldiers. What he saw sent a chill down his spine. The transparent shields were strewn everywhere, and the once solid wall of people had disintegrated, now facing away from him. They were pushing toward the center of the crowd, shouting, "Get them! Get them!" Of course, there were still plenty of soldiers left outside the crowd, coughing and collapsing to the ground, their bodies curling up. "Captain, this is violent criminal behavior. I request to use force." A soldier stood beside Duke, raising the explosive device in his hand. Duke remained silent as he observed his subordinates, who were in complete chaos. With red eyes, they shouted loudly and charged into the crowd, specifically towards 9 young individuals. They moved as if they were skilled in martial arts, darting left and right, rolling and jumping through the mass of people. Despite their thin appearances, their strength was immense. A single kick could send a soldier flying into the crowd behind, or a swift sweep of their body could send a group tumbling down, landing with cries of surprise. Perhaps it was best to avoid escalating the situation. If things truly got out of hand, it would be uncontrollable. Instead, he instructed the soldiers to avoid clustering together and maintain a certain distance from the young individuals, forming large circles to restrict their movements. By exhausting their energy, capturing them would become much easier. The soldiers around Duke looked at him with admiration, impressed by their captain's brilliance. Duke feigned a strategic demeanor, not revealing that he had learned this tactic from films. The soldiers quickly ran to execute the orders. Soon, 9 large circles appeared within the ranks of soldiers, each with a young person at the center. Whenever a young person moved, the crowd would immediately part, retreating while the surrounding group closed in, maintaining a circular formation. Can you believe this old guy came up with such a plan? One of the observers, Dongfang, munched on popcorn, thinking that watching a big show without snacks felt incomplete. You're right. Biorobots can exceed human capabilities, so this is the best approach. Nova expressed with a hint of regret. Never mind, let the second team move out. Dongfang commanded. Understood. At the same time, within a certain government establishment, a conversation was also taking place. Bai Deng and Ha Gusi had just finished a massage. After downing a glass of water, Bai Deng opened up the discussion. My dear Vice President, this parade seems different from usual. Conflicts have actually erupted. I have a bad feeling. My heart is racing. Of course your heart is racing after the massage, Ha Gusi replied. Did General Arthur not say that the crowd was under control? Stop worrying. I need to use the restroom. After Ha Gusi left, Bai Deng slumped into his chair, feeling his age catching up with him. During the standoff between the young individuals and the soldiers, the effects of the tear gas had gradually dissipated. Furthermore, the 9 young people had discarded many masks, allowing a large number of others to return to normal. Seeing those who had thrown them being surrounded reignited their anger. Fearing that the 9 would end up like the large man who had been previously taken down, they instinctively glanced over to where the big guy had fallen, only to find nothing but some dried black residue left behind. Oh, they must have been sent to the hospital. No matter, saving lives is the priority. A small group of people remained still, captivated by a young man's words. What is the point in fighting those soldiers? Even if they defeated them, what difference would it make? The officers and soldiers are busy dealing with them. The young man pointed to the group entangled with the soldiers, trying hard to break through the encirclement, and continued. Right now, there is no one protecting the White Palace. Let us rush in and confront that couple directly, demanding they fully disclose the situation regarding the lizard people and severely punish those soldiers who attacked today. Indeed, onlookers began to share this thought. This young man is impressive. Quick-witted. Without hesitation, they charged towards the entrance of the White Palace under his lead. The walls of the White Palace were somewhat tall, but how could that stop these 500 people? They could just form a human wall. Some climbed to the top first, then help the others up. Wasn't that a solution? The crowd jumped into the enclosure like dumplings, while over 30 strong men in black suits and white earpieces lay by the wall. Were the first few young people really that fierce? The trained security personnel were easily taken down by them? Although some had such thoughts, the excitement of entering the White Palace quickly washed away any doubts. Charge! Let us see that couple. The people surged forward. Oh no, Mr. President. They VE breached the crowd, and many security personnel have been taken down. We should strategically retreat. One of the aides rushed into the president's office, pulling the elderly man along. Following them was a group of so-called elites in suits. Since the president had fled, what more could be said about the staff in the presidential office? A large group rushed out of their offices, trailing behind the elderly man towards the back door. They exchanged thoughts as they ran. Were these people really that fierce? Did the security personnel just give up? Unarmed civilians took them all down. They should definitely consider changing their personnel. It couldn't be like that. There were too many protesters. If they tried to use force, the situation would change drastically. Dozens wouldn't dare to use force against thousands. It's understandable they couldn't stop them. Stop talking and run faster. I see they've already entered. Two people were at the back of the line, so they could see those who had rushed into the building through the main door. Hurry up, they're coming. You have to strip. One shouted. The people in front turned back in unison. The fleeing group's speed instantly picked up, and they rushed out of the office building without looking back before the protesters could get close. Oh no, I can't take it anymore. This is too exhausting. Bai Deng stopped, grabbing hold of Hagos, struggling to catch his breath. After just finishing a workout and running such a distance, he really couldn't handle it anymore. Age was not forgiving. Sir, just a few more steps, and we'll reach helicopter 1. Once you're on board, you can rest however you like. Hagos, also panting, was not much younger himself. Although he was fit, years without exercise took their toll. With a firm grip, he pulled the older man along, stumbling until they reached the helicopter. The elderly man could no longer hold on and collapsed into his seat, barely moving, as if he had fainted. Hagos, feeling anxious, kept patting his back while reminding the pilot, take off quickly and head to the nearest hospital. After the helicopter had flown for a while, Bai Deng finally started to recover, exhaling deeply. Hagos, I feel much better, he said, struggling to sit up, his eyes vacant as he gulped down some bottled water. As long as you're fine, that's good. Hagos patted his chest, relieved. Let's hurry to the hospital. Understood. Since the older man had managed to run, the eastern side no longer focused on the situation inside the helicopter. The old man had surprisingly kept up well, which allowed him to recover. Otherwise, they could have easily replaced him with a president from another nation. Captain, should we just replace the old man and send someone else? No need. I was joking. We don't understand the situation of that country well enough. A biorobot can't handle this position, and a nation's direction isn't something a single president can determine. If there's a change, it needs to involve the entire House of Representatives. That's a huge workload and not feasible. Let's take it slow. All right, understood, Your Excellency. After Nova finished speaking, he immediately switched the video back to the White House. The footage started when the parade crowd entered the building, confirming that Nova had recorded the real-time events to ensure he could see what happened. Catch them. Don't let those two escape. The first people to enter the building spotted the fleeing staff. Yes, we need to confront him directly. Unfortunately, the staff, fearing for their lives, were desperately trying to escape. They ultimately couldn't catch up. Among the parade crowd trailing behind, a young man intentionally lagged. Once the crowd dispersed, he casually walked to the now empty entrance and pressed the doorbell. He adjusted his facial expression to appear anxious and dashed to the entrance, shouting to the onlookers, "Quick! Let's go talk to those two. If we wait any longer, they'll get away." After saying this, he ran inside without looking back. His voice was loud enough to attract a lot of attention. Noticing the young man's anxious expression, the crowd began to move, following him inside. After people entered through the gate and looked around, the young man had already vanished without a trace. For a massive palace covering 730,000 square meters, one person running in was almost like an ant. Since they couldn't find him, they decided to stop searching. The culprits must be in the white building in front of the lawn. Isn't that what's always portrayed on television? So, they no longer had any other thoughts and headed straight for the white building. Inside the white building, it was indeed bustling with activity. Everyone who had just entered the palace was there. Due to the hurried departure of the staff, the office doors were left unlocked. People's curiosity was immediately piqued. Who cared about any conversations? They wanted to see what these employees, who were living off taxpayer money and not doing their jobs, were up to all day. Thus, they pushed open the doors of one office after another, and there were over 9,000 rooms here. People were like a character stepping into a grand garden, finding everything new and exciting. The decorations in the building were quite distinctive, as 45 presidents had lived and worked here, undergoing over 200 years of renovations and embellishments. It could be said that there were valuable things everywhere, even a carpet, a teapot, or a painting. These were all treasures. A burly man wearing a triangular pirate hat and sporting a goatee exclaimed. He entered a tea room that was decorated in a very retro style, with a small round dining table in the center covered with a white tablecloth. On it was a shiny set of silver tea utensils, a teapot, and 6 cups. Thanks to proper maintenance, there were hardly any signs of oxidation after decades. The man stepped forward and casually picked up a teacup. Damn, they really know how to enjoy life. Look at this carved pattern. Look at this perfect shape. He marveled as he walked to the doorway. Originally, he wanted to show his companions, but as soon as he stepped out, he found the corridor empty, with only the door next door ajar. Occasionally, laughter echoed, accompanied by voices exclaiming, "What great stuff. Damn, there's really no one around." He muttered, returning to the room. His expression had completely changed. His eyes bulged, revealing a mouthful of teeth, and saliva unconsciously dripped from the corner of his mouth. "If no one else watching, does that mean it's all mine?" he shouted, lunging at the table, grabbing his travel bag, and stuffing things inside. He kept mumbling, mine, it's all mine, haha." Before long, the tea room was completely cleared out. He stood at the door, feeling regretful that the table was just a bit too large. If only it were smaller. This was just a snapshot of a few thousand people. The other rooms were playing out the same scene. It seemed that the genes of their ancestors were indeed powerful. Snatching and grabbing had long been ingrained in their DNA. They didn't even need to be taught. They had become self-taught experts. An Eastern Observer sighed. Chapter 203. The matter settled. Leaving in a flurry, this old man really knows how to have fun. Just look at this bulging bag, and then at this completely empty tea room. Dongfang revealed a mouthful of bright white teeth. During their conversation, a bearded man with a travel bag walked out of the tea room. He seemed quite satisfied, and even when he saw doors to other rooms open, he didn't go in but headed straight outside. It was only when he saw a room with a sign that read Presidential Office that he adjusted his hat and walked in. The room was still luxuriously decorated, but with a modern style. Computers and office equipment were all present. Notably, there was a large, comfortable office chair. Sunlight streamed through the glass, highlighting the chair beautifully. Warm and cozy, the bearded man chuckled and plopped down beside the chair. The spacious boss chair enveloped him completely, so comfortable. After that, he casually pulled open a drawer and found a floral-patterned phone lying inside. Oh, it's a floral phone. This is great. Good for taking pictures, charges quickly, and has excellent response speed. This is the best find of the day. You can't even buy this in the capital. He sighed in admiration, tucked his legs up on the desk, leaned back in the chair, and started playing with his newly acquired phone. At that moment, a young man walked in. "Hey, you really know how to enjoy life. With the way you're lounging, I do think this is your office. Don't move, let me take a picture." "Sure," the bearded man replied, pulling out a small comb to tidy up his slightly messy beard. "All right, I'm ready for the shot," he said, striking a peace sign. This particularly special photo later went viral in various countries, and the bearded man gained a bit of fame, becoming a social media sensation. But that's another story. Since the crowd was made up of all kinds of people, their qualities naturally varied. The bearded man was relatively well-behaved. He only took a few items without damaging any facilities. However, there were others among them who harbored resentment towards wealth and authority. As soon as they entered the presidential residence, they acted like dogs that had spotted a bone, unable to contain their excitement, wanting to take everything they could see. But the quantity of items one person could carry was limited, leading them to think of another idea. Since they couldn't take things with them, they couldn't let these corrupt individuals enjoy it either, so they decided to set it on fire. Once that idea popped into their heads, they felt a rush of excitement as if they had been struck by lightning, unable to suppress their urges. "Let us burn it. Bro, do you smell something?" The bearded man, who had just finished taking his picture, sensed something unusual, twitching his nose and looking around. "Don't you see black smoke rising?" The young man pointed to the dark smoke billowing outside the glass. "Damn, these idiots, we need to get out of here." The man with the beard turned his head and saw a thick black smoke quickly rising, almost obscuring the sky. He shouted and rushed towards the door. It was chaos. The corridor was filled with people running around like headless flies. They covered their heads with their clothes and carried large bags on their backs, rushing towards the outside amidst the heavy flow of smoke. Unfortunately, they were having too much fun, and the situation had escalated a bit too much. By the time they reached the entrance, a large number of soldiers were already waiting at the gate. The bearded man exclaimed, "These foolish young people." A young man replied, "Oh no. Well, today's big show ends here. See you next time." Dongfang stood up and sighed a little. "All right, Captain, it's getting late, you should rest." "Okay, you go ahead with your business." Dongfang brushed off his clothes and walked upstairs in his slippers to sleep. Everything related to that country had nothing to do with him. Truly, once the matter was settled, he could leave quietly, hiding his achievements and fame. The night passed without incident, and Dongfang woke up naturally. Just as he opened his eyes, a phone call came in. "Boss, are you awake?" "Zhang Chong. Is there something going on at the hospital?" "There is a bit of news to report. First, Mr. Wang has fully recovered. His follow-up results show that all tumor cells have disappeared, and he just needs regular checkups." "Good. It's a pity that Mr. Wang has a special identity. We can't publicize it. I wanted to talk to you about the publicity, since you mentioned it. I won't dwell on it." Zhang Chong's tone carried a hint of regret, but he quickly adjusted. Recently, We admitted 3 late-stage patients, and the results are also very good. Let's use them as the main focus for publicity. However, their influence is a bit lacking. A little lacking is fine. We aren't too concerned about that. Let's leave Mr. Wong out of it. What is the second matter? It's about the hospital. Our hospital is completed, all qualifications have been approved, and the doctors are in place. Should we hold an inauguration ceremony? Invite everyone and promote it? You can make an appearance? Zhang Chong chuckled. Dongfang smiled as well. This kid had learned the trick. All right, set a date and send out invitations. I'll come back for it. Got it. You stay busy. After Zhang Chong hung up, Dongfang didn't get up. He thought about his plan to open a kindergarten. Since the goal was to start with the children, the standards for construction couldn't be low, and it also needed to be equipped with relevant software and hardware. And of course, helmets were essential. Human-computer interaction is the best educational method, so Nova could regularly appear in the children's classes. The bionic robots would just need to ensure their safety in reality. With Nova's computing power, even if divided into thousands, it would be easy to manage. Thinking of this, Dongfang remained in bed, picked up the phone, and dialed out. This time, he called Gao Yuan. Chairman, do you need something today? Are you concerned about your hardworking employee? A tired voice came from the other end of the phone. What you said is not very appropriate. I heard you have a girlfriend? Hee, there is such a thing. Your sister Wang Ting. She has been my dream girl since childhood. It must be that kid Wang Tao who talks too much. Is this kind of thing even reported? I need to sort him out later. That's great. I'm waiting to enjoy your sweet treats. Dongfang laughed, recalling the pure girl with long flowing hair who always walked with grace, wearing long dresses. She was the first girl he found beautiful. I want those sweet treats. But don't skimp on the red envelope. You tell me what is going on. There must be a reason for your call. Oh, Brother Yuan. You've learned to answer quickly. There are 2 things. First, prepare for the establishment of a kindergarten for the children of the Di Huan Group, built to accommodate 10,000 children. We aim to enroll all eligible children. Second, prepare for the construction of a high-energy physics laboratory. We can start fusion research. A kindergarten? Nuclear fusion? How are these 2 related? However, the big boss's thoughts are always so unconventional. Just get it done. Got it, understood. Chapter 204 Return after hanging up the phone. Dongfang got up, dressed, and had breakfast. He headed to his office. Good morning, Chairman. Hu Yang had already arrived. She was in awe of her boss, who could launch rockets at will without a hitch. So she changed her initial attitude. Money didn't matter as much as being talented. Good morning. Have Liu come to my office. I need to talk to him. Okay. Hu Yang exited, and Dongfang sat down at his desk, starting to review documents regarding the proposal to establish the Blue Star Orbital Space Test Station. Liu, this is quite a broad idea. The large payload rockets have really boosted his confidence. He was making significant strides, but this was precisely what he intended to pursue next. So he approved it with a flourish, flipping through another report about the vigorous development of commercial satellite operations. Nothing much to say, approved. Just as he was about to look at the third document, there was a knock at the door. Without looking up, he knew it must be Yu Xingrui. He called out without lifting his head. He picked up all the materials and flipped through them quickly. Financial reports, procurement requests, personnel payrolls, and other routine reports. After scanning through them, he approved them. He was quite familiar with these matters. When Dongfang finally looked up, Yu Xingrui was standing across from his desk. Liu, sit down. Why are you just standing there? I've said many times, it's not that formal here. Noticing Yu Xingrui still standing there, Dongfang smiled wryly and pointed to the chair opposite him. I'm not that serious. Why make everyone so tense? Yu Xingrui replied and finally sat down. Chairman, you called me for something? Hu Yang brought a cup of tea and placed it in front of Yu Xingrui. With the gentle white smoke rising, he relaxed a bit. Don't think too much. What I want to discuss with you is the development plan for the upcoming period. First, you've already submitted a report regarding the development of a space station. While Yu Xingrui was drinking tea, he quickly set it down upon hearing his boss's words and nodded repeatedly. Okay, I understand. Dongfang tapped the table, signaling him to continue, and then added, Second, we can work on commercial satellites and start the research and development of lunar probes. We aim to launch the first lunar exploration spacecraft by mid-year. Don't rush to wave your hand. I know the challenges you face. I have some blueprints here. Manufacturing will always be possible, right? However, these materials are incomplete. They only contain some key technologies. You need to continue building your team, and if you encounter any technical difficulties, feel free to call me. Of course, if you have your own R&D plans, report them to the Group's president's office. If approved, you can initiate implementation. Yu Xingrui looked up, surprised, and asked, Aren't you in charge of these matters? Dongfang replied, The group has major plans coming up, and I need to return. So, you'll be responsible for this. Since you're the general manager, you have to take on the responsibility, right? All right, Yu Xingrui nodded. Thank you for your trust. I will manage the company well. Now that's what a general manager should sound like. All right, go ahead and get busy. I'll be leaving soon. As Yu Xingrui stood up, he noticed Dongfang was busy reviewing documents again. He hesitated, raised his hand, but ultimately did not voice the matter he had been holding on to for a long time. Forget it. I'll wait for an opportunity. After all, the Jade tablet is definitely fake. With such a wealthy boss, it's not about that. With that thought, Yu Xingrui quickened his pace and exited Dongfang's office. Captain, the spacecraft is ready. You can depart now. Nova's gentle voice reached his ears, waking Dongfang from his midday nap. What time is it? I was sleeping so comfortably. I don't even want to open my eyes. It's 1:00 p.m. The time you scheduled has arrived. All right. Dongfang quickly got up to wash up. At the entrance of the Earthring Company, 2 security guards stood upright. Suddenly, one of them caught sight of someone and seemed a bit incredulous, rubbing his eyes hard. Hey, is that our big boss? Still unsure. He called out to his colleague standing opposite him. The other person looked up and confirmed, there's no mistake. The captain talks about him every day and shows us photos. It can't be wrong. Without caring for his dazed colleague, he rushed over to the newcomer. Chairman, you're back. Meanwhile, the security guard at the entrance mumbled to himself. A boss this big walking back. Could it be that our Earth Ring Group's new energy vehicles are not doing well? Please wait a moment. I'll arrange a shuttle to take you inside. No need. You go about your business. I can walk in myself. After saying this, he nodded to the 2 security personnel and slowly walked through the gate, leaving the 2 security guards staring at each other in surprise. When he reached the bottom of the office building, Wang Tao and Gao Yuan were already waiting there. Seeing a group of people waiting for him, Dongfang felt a bit lightheaded. From a poor student to one of the top bosses in the country, it could be considered a splendid transformation in life. Chairman, you finally decided to return as a hands-off manager. Gao Yuan laughed heartily and approached Dongfang with a group of people. You must have worked hard. My big steward Yuan Go. After shaking hands, they walked toward the office building. Everyone can disperse now. Go back to your tasks. We need to avoid such formalism in the future. Although he felt a brief sense of satisfaction, he knew that such a mentality should not be encouraged as it wouldn't benefit the company. So, Dongfang expressionlessly said to Wang Tao, understood, there won't be a next time. Wang Tao sensed the boss's displeasure and quickly nodded. Although the weather in the north was still chilly in March, he was already sweating profusely. He felt anxious, not expecting his flattery to backfire. Fortunately, Dongfang didn't say anything further, just nodded and quickly walked into the elevator. Chairman, here is the recent development report of the company for your review. Once Dongfang sat down in his office chair, Wang Tao hurried to his side, picked up a document from the desk, and handed it to his boss with both hands. Dongfang expressionlessly took it and placed it on the desk. How's the preparation at the hospital going? Everything is ready. The development of prefabricated buildings in the country is rapid. In just 2 months, everything has been built. All equipment, doctors, and nurses are in place. The ribbon-cutting ceremony is scheduled for 3:00 p.m. Do you think we need to adjust the timing? No need. Have all the necessary people been invited? Yes, including the leaders from X and the city. Also, Zhao Jinyu is now the head of our Yinan. Oh, that's impressive speed. Dongfang finally revealed a smile, seemingly happy for Zhao Jinyu. All right, I got it. Now tell me about the situation of the various companies. Sure. I'll focus on the key points for you. The Super Graphene battery has been successfully developed and launched in the market, with a 50 increase in capacity and a market share exceeding 70. The country and its allies, as per your instructions, have completely banned sales, which has led to a slight decrease in market share. But that's not your fault. No need to explain, just present the facts. After taking a sip of the tea brought by the secretary, Dongfang replied. Understood. The first generation of the Swallow chip is proceeding normally, with demand outstripping supply. However, we have allocated some production capacity for the second generation chips for our helmets. The high-precision CNC machines manufactured by the Mechanical Equipment Factory have largely been sold to confidential units, as per the initial agreement. At the request of these units, we have also completed the research and development of large 3D forging printers, with 3 units already delivered for use, successfully breaking the foreign monopoly. The components are utilized in various equipment, including aircraft, rockets, and naval vessels. Indeed, Deng Yuanji has also performed well. Have bonuses been distributed? Of course. According to the system you established, the bonuses have been issued in full and on time. If you have time to meet the employees at the manufacturing plant, they are as energized as if they've had a shot of adrenaline. Wang Tao flashed a bright smile, showing his pearly whites. Enough with the banter, let's continue. Wang Tao's smile faded, and he resumed his previous demeanor. The software company is fully expanding our operating system ecosystem, with only a few staff members continuing the follow-up on EDA software. Recently, we have completed the development of a large number of software applications, including multimedia, text editing, music, and graphic processing. With the support of our new graphene batteries, the automotive manufacturing plant has reduced its traditional energy vehicle production capacity by over 80. And we are now focusing on new energy vehicles. As for the computer company, Wang Tao's face lit up with a smile. that Zhang Hao has become the general manager. When he sees his old colleagues who joined the company together, he is always joking around. However, this has kept their relationship as close as it was in the beginning. Zhang's ideas are truly imaginative and unexpected. The various wearable devices he has developed are widely loved by consumers. And young people now consider using our wristband computers as a trend. Moreover, he has expanded the business scope, and we now have mobile phones. At this point, Wang Tao took out a cylindrical box with the company logo from a drawer near his feet and placed it on the table. By the way, the preparations for the high-energy physics laboratory you arranged have fully started.